Check.
Where'd you go? And what the hell did I expect? Staring at your empty bedroom, counting my regrets. All those days we spent pretending it was love. You could always use some other fool. Go and find yourself another muse. I don't need your medication. I'm a goddamn superstar. Don't need your medication.
As I understand it, some people are taking this song personally. And those people probably should.
We could have stayed there, but we packed our bags and left. We play it back, but we're not satisfied with less. I don't know what you think this is, but it's not some sort of test. We already did our best, and now it's gone. I'm not a sacrifice to hold on to. You're a mirror, and I've seen you through and through. I don't need your medication. I'm a goddamn superstar. Don't need your medication. I don't need
Check. Right, we're about ready to go. Come on now. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's just try. I'm going to get started anyways. Hi, welcome to the show, everybody. It's Hal Sparks Mondays Mega Worldwide. It's just the two of us for the first hour, and then second hour, the lovely, the talented, the dainty, the country affluent, the country gentleman, Texas Paul will be joining us, and he and I will be collectively kicking some shit around, apparently, because as a fellow shit kicker, it's a trait we were born to carry out on behalf of the world. I have, like him, I think my job these days is indeed to be sort of a bullshit kicker. Can you specialize in shit kicking? I think so. And if it's a growth industry these days. That's right. Hal Sparks, professional shit kicker. I will kick your shit. Now, tomorrow is the Ultimate Jam Night. So there won't be an afternoon show, but I will be doing an afternoon show today because I've got to do the White House Correspondents' Dinner all the way through. I was going to do it yesterday, but I was moving in 107-degree heat yesterday, and I think around 6 o'clock, all the liquid was gone from my body, and especially it was moving garage to garage. I weighed myself this morning, and I'm 155. That is the lightest I have been in a long time. And my weight pocket is 155 to 160, but it was like, I was like 168 yesterday morning. Like all the water left my body. So I got back and I was like, and but I'm fine. Don't worry. Andrea was mothering me with saying, make sure I get enough electrolytes. That's not a problem around here, especially after what my girlfriend's been going through, the current unpleasantness. Believe me, hydration is king. And if you know anyone who's going through the big C and many of its variants, little c forms or giant C's, one of the things that you need to do is make sure that if they're going through radiation and chemotherapy. Hydration. They tell everybody, drink like it's your job. Water, I think specifically is what they mean. Because being from Kentucky, I think a lot of people where I come from drink like it's their job. I would even say, I would go further than that. I think they like it's a religious calling. So, anyways, yes, hydration is important. I've always said, and this is my little tip for Monday morning, help your week, get you started off right. We're going to be dealing with a lot of shit as big orange buffoon is on his hard fade. I think it's very important that you remember two things. One, anger is hunger, lack of nutrition. You can eat a lot, but still not get the nutrients you need. So if you're feeling grumpy or whatever, maybe check the nutrient content of the food you're eating. Don't just snack on some shit when you get hangry. You want to make sure you're getting protein and the minerals and the vitamins along with that, and enough water in your food that you through the okay. And then depression, and this is not medical advice. I'm just telling you this is how your body works. Is dehydration. That if you're feeling mopey and sad and all that kind of stuff, a lot of times, if it's not clinical mopey and sadness, is there a clinical definition of mopey? Probably. They probably have put a name on it and then have a pill. But it's lack of water in your system. Because think about it. Back when we were living on the savannah and punching dinosaurs and eating ground ferrets with scales, I don't know what we did when we were... all of my history before the American Revolution comes from watching Land of the Lost. So you'll have to excuse me. Anyways, what did you do when there was no food? You got your gander up, you got all angry, and you're like, I will attack something and I bite it. Or I will take your shit and bite it and punch you. That's why hangry is a thing. Now we're civilized. We don't have to do that anymore. Some of you still cling to it, but you don't have to. But just it's a little marker to make sure that the quality of the food you're eating. If you're getting hangry, it's the quality of your food. Okay, that's what I'm saying. And the low blood sugar ruled the savannah. And then water. What do you do when there's no water and there's no rain and whatever? You can't punch the clouds and make the rain come out. You can dance around all you want. It might work, maybe not. But rain dances were about cheering up the tribe during times when there wasn't any water because everybody got depressed. And some people, when they get depressed, get violent. And see how that shit works? So the hydration is key because your body just starts to shut down. It starts to go, okay, we'll just sit here and wait till the snow or the rain comes, and then we'll get something to drink. You don't want to sweat or exert yourself when there's no, when there's not a fresh water source around. That's the primate stuff that we're dealing with. Just know it and understand it. Check those boxes, and then if there's still a problem, then that's when you go see a doctor or whatever. Otherwise, they'll charge you, I guess, $800 to tell you to drink some water. But so don't worry, we've got the hydration thing handled around here. That's why I'm so cheery all the time. And no, I don't have ADD. I saw that wander by. Let me tell you something. I have ADD or ADHD like Da Vinci had ADHD or ADD. Do you get me? I don't know. Here's my thing. First of all, you have to prove to me that there's an order in the universe, an order in human behavior, an actual order before you can accuse me of having a disorder. So fuck off. I'm hyperactive because I'm very excited about life most of the time. And when I'm not very excited about life, it's usually because I'm asleep and my dreams are exhausting. So I'm just telling you, until you can prove to me that there is a distinct box where you can go, yep, this is what normal humans' attention span or focus is within your talent capability. Like, because if you just don't like all the shit I like, then how can we gauge that your distraction level is anywhere near, because you don't even have those distractions. You're not interested. If you have a lot of interests because you love these things, this all stacks up to this whole like sexual conquest thing, which I never understood. When I was a teenager, there was all this like talk in movies, especially about notching your belt, and the idea like that body count for men meant that you were you treated women like objects or something. Like whoever thinks that that's about objectifying women clearly objectifies women, because I don't know if you know this, but women are individual human beings, and all of them have their pluses and minuses just like men do. And yeah, he treats objects like women, man. Want an attorney like Ron Kuby. Sometimes, again, people will treat that like it's some sort of ADHD or ADD shit when it comes up in the chat and I respond to Lebowski quotes. How do I not? We're having a good time. But I never understood that, because I was like, what's not to like about her? And what's not to like about her? And what's not, I mean, this is obviously the mind of a teenage boy, but still a romantic. I like to think so, anyways. So, and so they, again, I always get into this area where I venture into where people are like, you're giving medical advice. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm telling you my life experience and how, by and large, I feel shortchanged by the idea that simply labeling some variant aspect of behavior suddenly gives you the illusion that you know anything about it. Yeah. You got to quote the dude. Hey, Hal, how are we holding up, bud? We're holding up okay. Let me tell you something. I'm going to say something super controversial right now, because we were our first guest today had to reschedule, and I can't say I blame him. And we're going to have him on next Monday, so I'm not going to name check him about this. But there were, a couple of points that I was going to discuss with him that, might get a little awkward, to say the least. And one of them has to do with the visitor at the White House today. I'm going to go out on a limb, ladies and gentlemen, and say that Benjamin Netanyahu is terrible at his job. I know. War criminal, religious fanatic, shove that all aside. And understand it is true, right? But let me explain something to you that this Benjamin Netanyahu at a basic, because I guess he's scheduling to get, he's got his trial stuff going on. I don't even know if they've killed it in the crib yet or whatever over there. Again, another country's legal system. I ain't got time for that, because ours is already in need of some tire patch. But Benjamin Netanyahu is not good at his job, primarily. He's just bad at it. Because I got news to you. Post October 7th and that kind of stuff, it would not have been hard. He's bad at his job the same way George W. Bush was bad at his job. Now, post 9/11, people gave W, plenty of rope. But he was too stupid and too much of a placeholder to take advantage of that and actually create from it. He was able to just, like Trump is doing, get his needs met and enrich himself, and Halliburton through, Dick Cheney's company would get no bid contracts and shit like that. But he couldn't not get us into a quagmire because he's a dumbass at his root. He's the dumbest kid in the Bush family. And because of that, he couldn't recognize the realities, the opportunities, and the damage potential in front of him that came as a part of the reality of the world that he found himself in and we found ourselves in, and use that to its best effect and do as little damage as possible. I'm just throwing that out there. Again, I know I'm courting controversy here. But the same thing is true of Netanyahu. Not only is he a terrible person and a war criminal, I would agree. But let me tell you something. There's been some war crimes by leaders in the past, and they've managed to skate past a lot of these accusations in the middle of it, or the arguments about fog of war and all that kind of stuff was enough to cover their ass because they didn't get too far out over their skis, or when they did realize they were making a mistake, they dialed it back, and they did it in such a way that they could communicate it to people where people at least took them at their word for the time being, that kind of stuff. That's what's required of you when you're a world leader going through something like this. And Bibi and Trump, Bibi is Trump. Bibi and Trump are very much in the same camp. And I would argue the Ayatollahs and the IRGC leaders in Iran, same group. I would argue Vladimir Putin, very much the same kind of character. Is that when presented with a crisis or an opportunity, or a crisis they plan to make into an opportunity, or an opportunity to create a crisis that they will pretend is just an opportunity. When they are presented with that, that is a tried and true method that kings and potentates and monarchs and leaders have used throughout history, right? It's a thing. They didn't invent it. By any means. It's one of those, like, where's that how to fuck with things plan we have under the table? Like there's a huge aspect of strategy that's been around. This is the Rasputin whispering in the Tsar's ear. This is all that stuff. This is Genghis Khan's boyfriend, for example. For those of you that don't know, Genghis Khan, while he shares genetic material with a lot of us on the planet, apparently, he also had a very close boyfriend that was so dedicated to him that he insisted, after a failure on the battlefield, that Genghis Khan cut his head off. Because that's what he did to all of his generals if they fucked up on the battlefield. And if he didn't do it, they would think he was weak, and they would also know that they were a couple. So that's one of the big stories about Genghis Khan and his main gay lover. And again, the battlefield back then, yeah, that's a man's man right there. His partner, the one, I forget his name, but that guy, that's dedicated. That's love. Let me tell you something. Yes, he had several apparently, but that was the main one, and not the state of Maine, obviously. But yeah, so that guy though was one of his advisors that would go, hey, we could always false flag something. We could always burn down a village and blame the other side, and then everybody will demand we do something awful that we've been planning to do for a while. All that shit. Okay, that's been around for a long time. None of these assholes invented it. And there's a little bit of luck, I think, in our current set of leaders in that, and it's a double-edged sword, I understand, but that they're so stupid that they can't fully take advantage of it the way the storied, studied generals who became leaders of old did by fighting their way to the top in physical fighting and warfare and that kind of stuff, who had to be keen just to survive. We've got a second generation rich kid dickhead running our country. The elite class of the Ayatollah crowd, where they fly to the peninsula in Beverly Hills and bring in a bunch of Filipino boys and that kind of stuff. Those got living a lie amongst everybody else who they expect to live a pious life below them. And if they don't, they kill them or chuck them off a building and all that kind of stuff. That bifurcation didn't come from battling their way to the top. It came from either, a trait of birth, right? Or it came from, somebody else's effort, primarily. Somebody else did the work. But it's not because they're well studied in the ways of war and politics and economics and all that kind of stuff, right? That's the new one of the reasons why I think there's a disdain for elites is the system to create elites in our modern world didn't exist a long time ago. You can just, like Ted Cruz, go to Harvard, become a lawyer, and fast track yourself because of who you're around to that elite thing. That was never been, and democracy in and of itself is one of those ways, which has allowed people to rise up in a way that has never happened before. And I have to warn you that when that happens, while a good portion of humanity will get their first shot at actually, moving up the ladder of life and comfort and all that kind of stuff, but and being able to start businesses and have their own broader families and stuff in ways that they certainly couldn't do it when they were, when they were sharecroppers or, in forced labor camps and stuff for the czars, then the Soviets or the lords in England or whatever over those periods, in different eras. That now that, people can get up through that, there's also going to be, I got to tell you, there's going to be some assholes, unqualified sociopaths that slip through. This is also a valuable lesson for our side of the equation, because when you offer equality and understanding and mutual respect, especially in groups that have been previously denied that, every group has their bad eggs. And those bad eggs will go, oh, okay, well, if they're going to leave the door open, I'm just going to walk on through, which is why you have to care about the programs that you create when you're trying to create these systems and make them have real rules so that the people you're trying to benefit actually get the benefit and it doesn't create a backlash, which is where most of the shit that we're dealing with these days comes from. Does this make sense? I know you weren't expecting a lecture this early in the morning, and it is Monday, but what I'm trying to tell you is that the good side is our leaders are so unstudied and stupid that they can't take advantage of all the tools available to them in a way that could create all the damage they could. And I'm only saying this because I see it all the time when I'm watching the news, and if you watch it like everybody talks about 5D chess and these assholes, just look at it as regular chess. And I'm like, they could do this, they could do this, they could do this, but they are stupid, and I'm not going to tell them they could get away with it that way. Does that make sense? Okay, so I see a bunch of this, especially around the back and forth between Trump being the decider, like W was, and how Bessent and those guys, they know their lane and nothing else. And when they don't care about any of the rolling fuck up that he does until it enters their lane. Right? And that's where they start going, whoa. Hey, you might want to stop the strikes for a bit. We're charting it, and it's headed towards the same spike situation where it's going to 119. And if it hits 120, that's that psychological shot that really wrecks things across the world. And I have investments in a lot of other countries. So if you could dial it back right now until I can move my money somewhere else, that would be great. That's what Bessent is doing. That's what everyone around Bessent is doing. That's what the advisors that actually know what they're doing, if there are any at all, at TMTG or whatever the crypto wedge that Trump's got going on. Now, they're playing with fucking cartoon with monopoly money. So I don't even know that those are experts about a subject by which there can be no expertise because it has no root standard. Or blame Jimmy Carter because the Biden's fault thing got old. Well, the interesting thing is one of Trump's big fears right now is becoming, quote, Jimmy Carter, which is never going to happen because, interestingly enough, Jimmy Carter was a good man. And Donald Trump benefited and is attempting right now to benefit from negotiation with the Iranians in the same way that Bush 1, who was not an idiot, but was awful, but never like got to play out his awful because he had to be paired like Dick Cheney was with W. He had to be paired in the second seat with Ronald Reagan. And Ronald Reagan was the guy who would sign off on all the stuff. Ronald Reagan was one of those guys who they thought of him as a figurehead, and he thought he was president. And Trump is the same guy. Trump and Reagan have so much in common. The only difference is that Reagan had actually run a government before. Reagan had actually been a governor. And in doing that, he had to show something for it. He had to, other people had to say. Trump, as much as they're saying, we need a businessman in office. And the next time somebody raises this bullshit, is forever going to be, you mean like the last one who broke the country twice? How about no? Here's the problem with calling Trump a businessman. It's a family-run business. They didn't have investors. There wasn't a board he had to answer to. He didn't have to give out, there was no stock you could buy before he started this TMTG stuff. And when they started doing that, it cadavered. I've shown you the chart dozens of times. IPO of $90, stock price of $9. This is the first time Trump has ever had to answer to anybody besides his own id. That's not a businessman that you want running your country. I mean, there would be more argument for letting the executive at NBC who greenlit The Apprentice be president more so than the fucking host of the show who, again, his office was a farce. It was a set. Yeah, the U.S. is not a business. I completely agree. And interestingly enough, this is a moot argument. But the point of, if you're going to have a business person run it, what you're really talking about is not the owner, but the CEO, because the chief executive officer is the administrator of what the board and of the business plan of the board and what the shareholders, people who have stock in it, which you could say voters have stock in the country. Like if you want to use that analogy played out, you would want somebody who's dealt with that before, who can both take what the stockholders want and make it manifest, or when it won't work, respond to it and go, we're not doing that, and here's why. Yes, the purpose is not profit. Well, again, it's not financial profit, but I would argue there is a profit in the country, which is why a businessman is a terrible idea for a leader in a country like ours, because the profit is not measured in cash. The profit is measured in the health, well-being, and life quality of the American people, and that's not something businessmen are designed to give a shit about, especially as a CEO or something like that, unless they're very customer oriented. So that brings us to the other one. What kind of businessman do you, if you're going to have a businessman and it's a company with shareholders and a board of people you have to answer to, or they can fire you, right? I know it's not a business. I'm using this as an analogy. Relax. I'm not going to pull a Mitt Romney. But if you are saying that, first of all, you would never choose somebody from a family-run business because that's basically a monarchy. And then if you did choose somebody who was a CEO of a company, you would want that to be, by and large, a very customer service friendly company, one that interacts with the public all the time, because you're not just dealing with shareholders. The customer is ultimately the boss. So you would want somebody to, if you're choosing this idea, which is why when they brought up Trump as we need a businessman in there, it was a farce even beyond their own standard. You would want somebody who deals with like a subscription service or something people have to buy back into. You wouldn't go with Elon Musk, which is these little like cordoned off fiefdoms like SpaceX and Tesla and shit like that, where, he creates a car he can turn off from a switch on his office, right? But you would want the Apple, Starbucks, somebody who makes a physical thing and has had to respond to the public, going, we don't like that, we're not buying it, and going, how about this? And it's better. And it's better in these 9 ways, right? If you're going to do it. But it's interestingly enough, those business leaders that are like that, who create actual stuff and actually respond to their customers and the like, tend to vote Democrat. Tend to vote and give money to Democratic causes because they see the parallels in how they work and they understand that you're responding to a customer base and not just your own customers. You're dealing with the other people who walk by your shop all the time. You don't want them to get a wild hair up your ass and go, oh, that's the place that does, poisons the water or does whatever. Yeah. You've got to deal with the people who aren't your customers because you eventually might want them to become your customers. You have to encourage them to do that, right? This is, and in a media-like world that we're in, this is how Trump punched his way through with these illusions. But again, these don't even stand up to any kind of scrutiny. If you're saying that's our stand, we need a businessman running things. What kind of businessman should have been the primary question when this shit came up? I was asking it. I don't know that anybody else was because they were just like generic business. That's new. It's the same argument we have about when they talk about open source versus open weight versus open models on, when it comes to AI, for example. And the news, when they talk about it, just use the word open as if they're all created equal. And they aren't. They're meaningful differences. The word open isn't enough. And this is the same, just like the word business isn't enough. And Republicans start wars mostly. Well, again, here's the problem that they have. Why do Republicans start wars? Why? Just besides murder, whatever, right? Why? Because they have conflicting values with their own voters. Their own voters want small government. But this is a big country with a bunch of, that's right, the business of government. That's the part that they like. And it is a safe way to expand the federal workforce that doesn't make them look like a bunch of hippies. They can shore up parts of the economy by redistributing the wealth of people, the taxpayer, into certain businesses that are guaranteed as a moneymaker, and they've got to keep them cranking. And again, to make money and for profits, that's also not enough of an answer. This is very important in the age of Mamdani and all this stuff, that we look past this as well. I'll show you why I'm particularly aggravated. I normally, again, we got Texas Paul coming on in the second hour, and I normally don't do videos in the morning, but this one from a perhaps former, hard to say, Trump voter / promoter / maggot adjacent account that we've seen before, the Harry Hank Hill himself, from 3 of 7 Project. I want to show you something real quick and see if you can see why I'm fucking wound up. Besides, why not? Remember this guy? Hey man, are you the boys that painted my cat's butt? The title of this video, this came across my feed because of all the shit I have to watch for this show. You're welcome. Exit the machine, abandon convenience, make as little money as possible, and quit traveling. I love it when somebody's finally got all the answers. You can see why the title drew me in. Now, you have no idea. Okay, this guy's a big, I think he was a SEAL. He's a trained military guy. He's retired now, and he makes these videos, and there's a lot of manosphere shit about this. A lot of shooting, a lot of sitting around talking about your balls. I don't know what they on their regular podcast, but he does this Truck Nuts show where he sits in his driveway so you can't see his ginormous, expensive house, by the way. Yeah, and I thank him for his service. Let's start right there. No problem whatsoever on a human level. Here's the thing. If I'm arguing with you, if I'm calling you names and I'm calling you out, that's because I honor your humanity. You know, when people should worry about me dehumanizing someone is if I stop talking about you. If I start considering it to be I'm punching down, or this person is too stupid or too weak or mentally disabled to understand the argument. Like, I would not pick on someone who is mentally challenged, for example. I won't insult them, right? Because fairly decent person. But so if I'm calling you out and calling you stupid and arguing with you, that means I think you're worth arguing with, right? That means I think I have enough respect for you to think you can take the criticism, field it no matter what package I put it in. And if I call you a drifty little pussy or a weakling or an asshole or a maggot or whatever, that's respect in its own way. Does that make sense to everybody, by the way? I'm curious about that take. Do you guys understand that's genuinely how I think? Because I'm not going to denigrate or attack somebody if I don't think they're capable of a comeback. Benny Johnson is mentally challenged, though. No. Being closeted is not a mental challenge in a biological sense. So no. Benny Johnson is out over his skis, but he can understand that concept. Al's never mentioned to me. I've never had cause to. Yeah. Benny's just he's a what is it? What's the phrase? He's a quisling. He's a suck up. That doesn't mean he's mentally incapable of understanding what a weakling or a suck up is and how it's probably not good to be that. So if I'm calling somebody out or, there's a person, and CSL probably knows who this is. Amazing. That clips come up about him because he's had a show for a while. He's got a radio show. He's got a podcast. He has people on. And largely he's a huge Trump fan. He believes all kinds of bigoted shit. He'd be a perfect target for this show, but I genuinely, and I think CSL knows who I'm talking about, I genuinely think this person is mentally incapacitated. I don't care if he has a show and people are putting him on. My formal diagnosis from out here is that, Soulcraft. There you go. Yeah. That I genuinely, when I see him, I'm like, that's not right. Rogan's cooking his brain. That's different. Nope. It's not anybody I've ever had on. For real. So that, and I'm sure there are a few of them out there, but this one in particular. And I'm not gonna largely, I don't know how you watch that and go, all right, this guy's kind of broken. So there are clearer targets. Okay. Yeah. Some of you know who I'm talking about. I'm just not going to do it because I genuinely think he's spun. I'm not going to do it. So out of respect for 3 of 7's length of beard, his military service, when he says shit like this, I'm going to call it out, and as fully as I can and as directly as I want, because I think he can take it. Right? I think he's capable of understanding. If we had a conversation and I called him out for this shit, he might disagree, might get mad, but at least he can process it. Do you understand? Okay. If I didn't think he had the capacity to process the argument, then I wouldn't criticize him only having one side of an argument. Okay, so check this out. This is from Exit the Machine.
Welcome back
Wait, why is it? Oh, okay, that's funny. Why are you not playing it?
to another episode of
Oh, yeah, sorry. It's pumping to you guys, but not going through mine. There we go. Sometimes I have to turn my headphones off, and sometimes they have to be on. It's very curious. Bring this up a little bit, too. There you go. This is his answer to the current situation, which, by the way, he helped get us in, not through his military service, but his tacit support for Trump and this kind of like worry about the feminization of the culture and shit like that.
brought to you by me, inspired by my man Chili. You know, I've been putting a lot of thought into how do I break free from the machine.
He says sitting in his $85,000 F-150 with GPS built in front of his McMansion in Pretend Woods, Tennessee.
Right? Maybe you've been thinking about this too. This nameless, faceless kind of force that almost passively dictates how we live our lives.
Nameless, faceless thing that almost passively, which means nothing. Like that is just fucking pentaverate gibberish. Fucking hell. Almost.
Ultimately, it leads to our own misery if you can actually get to a point in your life where you see that you are miserable. Yes, you're comfortable. Yes, your life is convenient, but you have somehow passively been led into this lifestyle where you are not fulfilling the things that you should be doing as a human being.
Okay, first of all, this is the same shit that people have been. This is how you sell self-help books. So it's exactly how you sell, sort of motivational videos, which is part of what the manosphere shit is pushing. And this idea that like disenchantment or ennui or the realization that society doesn't bow to your fucking whims and that there's a lot of other people out there that just disagree with you. And when shit doesn't go your way, when you're like, but we got the House and the Senate and the presidency, why isn't it fucking magic? Because it's not a fucking monarchy. And even if it was, more than likely, you'd be first on the list.
Actually valuable. So it's a weird type of misery. You may not be able to put your finger on it.
If you can't put your finger on it, it's not misery. Jesus Christ. You want to talk about fucking privilege? This part, now I'm really wound up. I'm never going to get through this before Texas Paul gets here. It ain't misery, man. It isn't misery. If you're disappointed in how much you're cranking out, get at it, you dumb son of a bitch. Yeah. You're just grumpy.
You don't have the realization that what's
You're right, I did forget to mention SCOTUS, and I apologize. They have that too.
making you miserable is the fact that you are not living like a human being should live, right?
Which is what, in small tribes, banging sticks together?
So it can seem overwhelming when you have this realization and you say, I want to go a different direction. I want to at least become less dependent on this machine. I want to look less like a cog in the wheel of this machine.
What the fuck are you talking about? The idea that a dude with a beard like that, with his Yeshua fucking hat on, driving his $80,000 car, that he, just lovingly calls a truck, is somehow like part of a cog. Dude, maybe it's the straight and narrow of your religion bucking up against your baser instincts, and that's not our problem. White male grievance is pathetic. Smokey, this is not unique to this guy. This part brought up. You want to go look at the like Black Hebrew Israelite channels, the Blacks for Trump guy. And part of the reason I can't show his videos is because he shows Indian people beating black people as an example that they're taking over, and the video would be shut down. One of the only reasons I can show this as an example is because it's just him sitting in a fucking truck.
Where do I start? I've kind of passively been led to the point that I am today. What do I do? I think it's actually pretty simple. I think we look at...
Hold on. If you haven't been passively led, like that idea, it's right up there with the fucking Illuminati. I don't even know that I have free choice because I watch the same movies and we do the same stuff, and then we elect our guy and it's shit. And it wasn't half bad under Biden except for the fucking post-COVID stuff. Everything went up, and I blamed him because I was told to blame him by all my friends. And suddenly you're in a fucking cattle chute waiting to get slaughtered all of a sudden. Just admit you were suckered by Trump and stop blaming the rest of humanity for your disillusionment.
the things that the machine glorifies or the machine rewards.
Okay, what does the machine glorify and reward? The machine.
And we say, those are pretty easy to identify, right?
All right, yeah. Tell me what the machine glorifies.
One, what's the first thing our system, our world, our culture glorifies? Right now, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? For me, it's convenience.
Convenience? That's the root of all evil? Paging Dr. Freud, let me tell you something about convenience, dude. You live in Pretend Woods, Tennessee. You know why you live in Pretend Woods, Tennessee? Because you want convenience. Now, first of all, since fucking when did convenience become a pejorative? We'll put that aside. But one of the reasons why convenience grew is because if you can conveniently get your needs met, especially when it comes to food and fuel, you can spend more time parenting or gardening or doing whatever. If that stuff is available, you can get right at living, as opposed to having to get on a fucking wagon train and going out west to find the only hotel with eggs because you want to be a chef and that's your dream, right? Whatever everything being well out of reach, you don't become a more capable human being because of struggle if the struggle is artificial. I had a colleague at one point who, for all practical purposes, and this is early in my career, made more money than me on a show. Quite a lot more. Quite a bit more. As a sort of day player, I was scraping by. I had my little shared apartment with my roommate before he bugged out and left me with all the bills. And I was scrambling. And the guy who was the lead on this thing intentionally lived in this basement apartment so he could pretend he was Tom Waits, or he was living in a Tom Waits song, or he was Bukowski. Right? He was cosplaying as a poor person. And because he wanted, if he walked out of that basement apartment down the street, guess what? There was a lot of convenience.
It makes convenient. We idolize convenience.
No, we do not. This is absurd at its face. Who idolizes convenience? And then again, why? Right? Why? Why would you idolize convenience even if you did? I don't have to boil water so you can drink it. You are so lazy, Ichiko fan. You know what I mean? Just you living on your high horse.
that we can do and add to our life, every new technology, every new little widget, the car that we drive, the food that we eat, everything that we can take on board that adds convenience to our life, we think that's a good thing, right?
Yes, and I guarantee he's got an array of power tools in his shop, in his garage behind him, that all use the same battery. And he's not like, fuck it, I'm going to use a regular old-fashioned. I'm using a flathead even when it calls for a Phillips.
And so it's just identifying these things and then doing the opposite. Saying, okay, foundationally, the system or the machine wants to pacify us through comfort and convenience. What can I do to reverse that direction? Well, it can be as simple as driving an older car. It can be as simple as moving from a smartphone to a flip phone. It can be as simple as growing your own food. What is the harder way? And what you'll
Also, how about this? How about there are a lot of things people just don't do in their lives that they probably could or should, like learn a foreign language, play a musical instrument, plan everybody to come to their house every other year for Christmas and those kind of things, which take a lot of time and preparation and all that kind of stuff. And they can do that because their car doesn't break down and they, I don't know, use a smartphone to organize it. And so, like, why this sort of like, let's go back to when things were simpler because things are getting too simple is probably the dumbest fucking argument. He's right. It's time to go back to chamber pots. That's right. Take the harder way. Shit on your own doorstep to remind yourself to clean it before you have to go to work tomorrow.
in the harder way, you actually become more human. You become more fulfilled.
Okay, by the way, difficulty and activity are not mutually exclusive, nor are they both necessary at the same time. Learning to cook is hard. Once you start cooking regularly, it's not hard anymore. Sure, you can cook at home, but it takes a lot to get everybody out of the goddamn house once in a while.
That's, I think, a foundational step. What's another thing that the machine rewards or we glorify in our society today?
Oh boy, here comes the Trump part.
Travel, right? Travel. It seems like that's what everybody wants to do, man.
Whoa. All right. First of all, I feel like he means foreign travel, right? I feel like going overseas, these foreigners, that's why it's striking. But like, I think he might even mean that this dude is the final evolution of Aspen Gold.
Some of you guys work all year to take one vacation. Or you see these people that are like bouncing around all these different countries and places and doing all this stuff, and we glorify travel.
He does realize that you don't just go there and stand in the place. There are people there. I don't know you know what? There also, when you travel, there's a lot of hard, difficult, complicated, uncomfortable, very human things that occur when you travel that don't occur when you're staying home all the fucking time. Learning just passing phrases of a foreign language just so you can get around is difficult. It also requires you to interact with strangers, the very thing that you're talking about. My fucking God.
Well, I would say it's probably more human for you to not travel.
All right. What are you talking about? Human beings, before we had cities, all we did was fucking move. Jesus Christ, man. It'd be more human if you didn't have a roof. That way, when it rained, you'd know to go get under a tree.
For you to actually find a place where you are going to put down roots, where you're going to live, where you're going to work, a place that you're going to build that will hopefully last for generations. It's probably more human for you and I to not do that.
To not do that? All right. He inverted, I think. He means it'd be more human to do that, put down the roots and stuff, I guess.
And so that's another way to push back against the system.
Yeah, the machine is forcing you out into the world to meet strangers in other cultures. Fuck me.
What's another thing, a big thing that the machine glorifies? Wealth and money, right? That's the American dream, right? Going out, entrepreneurship, figuring out some way to accumulate as much wealth as you possibly can.
No. Accumulating as much wealth as you possibly can is not the American dream, you absolute tit. For fuck's sake. People want a nice house so they feel safe and secure and don't have to repair it all the time. And it smells nice. And they can wake up and not worry about the house. And if they want to have kids, they have an extra room. And if their kids move out, they have an office and those kind of things. They don't want the house just so they can stand outside and go, look at that fucking thing. They just stand out in their goddamn driveway pointing at it. Look at you bitches. Like, this is what people fucking... That's Trump. Slathering shit with gold and stuff like that. Biden fixed up his fucking house, you absolute moron. Good Lord. And everybody was impressed. He bought this shitty house nobody wanted. And he sold it like the value, he kept it. But the value of it increased to like $4 million because the area came up around it because Biden was one of the people who made the house nice. What are you fucking talking about? Good Lord. The accumulation of wealth is an oligarchical dream. It is not the dream of the average American. They want nice house, decent school, sporting events to go to, something to extend your life force into in your social interactions, your familial interactions, and your business interactions if you make or do something for somebody else. Who the hell is like high-fiving at a pile of fucking money when they die? Even people who accumulate a lot of wealth because they want to pass it on aren't doing that. I didn't get to go to university, so I'm making sure my kid can. I couldn't afford to go to college and university. So I am trying to make enough money so that when the time comes, I have enough to set that aside so that he can go if he wants to. That's not just me going, look at that fucking pile of cash. It's for a purpose, to extend the life force of my child and have my child be able to, because of that, extend his life into the world. Why are we listening to a moonshiner? Well, first of all, he's a Navy SEAL. Secondly, he's one of he's got 608,000 subscribers just at the 3 of 7 project, this channel. And then they've got a whole other channel for their podcast, which is also gigantic. Right? Part of the problem is this idea that like aspiring for a standard of living by everybody is exactly what I believe as a Democrat we should be for. If you want to strive for extraordinary things in a big house and all that kind of stuff in your life, you should be able to do that. But the goal is to, raise the standard for everybody in the country, set an example so that other countries follow it. Oh, okay, that's a great way to make sure all your citizens are taken care of, and if they want to build past it, they can, right? Sparks 2028. Yeah. And you could tell I'm somebody who, I don't know where his hometown is. For all I know, he could have been raised in downtown Nashville. But I was, in Peeks Mill, Kentucky, you get out of those places. You move from those places if you want to go do anything. And you could eventually, if you wanted to, you could go back and run that thing or be that thing there. But you don't do it if you want to raise your kid to be above the challenges of that area. And it's not just convenience, and it's not just stacking fucking dollars. I feel like Hal would tell Democratic consultants to go fuck themselves. That alone is for my vote. Yeah, I don't even know that I would need one. Pretty good explaining. Thanks. Yeah. Pretty good explaining what I mean if somebody misinterprets what I say, and we got Texas Paul coming in here in a minute, is he all right? I want to make sure that he's got the right link and he's coming in. I don't see him yet, but I'm sure I will. But this idea that like we've had this around since the 80s is kind of a I can tell what movies people grew up on by the kind of bullshit they believe. And what message they took away from stuff. If they watched the movie Secret of My Success, which is one of my like comfort movies I like having in the background. It's it's not a lot of heavy lifting. It's a good 80s comedy pulp or whatever. And God bless Michael J. Fox. But it was like in watching that movie, if you think it was all about him flying back to Kansas in a jet with his with Supergirl as his girlfriend, if that's what you fixated on, and you didn't hear the speech in the beginning where he's talking about trying to get his first job, going everywhere, door after door, and they tell you, you don't have enough experience. Well, how am I going to get experience if they need experience to get a job? And you just want, they tell you, that you can't, you're not going to make it. And you're like, I can do anything if I just get the chance. That speech, that's what that movie is about. It's a delivery system for that speech. Yeah. I'm sure he'll get in here. And if we have to give him another link or something, just let me know. I'll make it happen. That's what that's about. It's like Rocky. Most people think Rocky is about the fight at the end. And why it won the Oscar for writing, we'll leave him to, you get my point. But a lot of people think Rocky is about the fight at the end. It has nothing to do with it. And the reason it won the Oscar is because he didn't win. He just went the distance. Yeah, Rocky is about the struggle, overcoming it. Everybody telling you can't. That's what that movie is about. And that's why it's inspiring. That's why people love it. Yeah, secret to my success, I'm living 23 hours a day, right? Right? And those kind of movies have value. But a lot of the people who watch those kind of movies, they like look at the ending of a film and they're like, that's what it was all about. And that's like looking at the X-Files and saying, it was all about when they finally kissed or moonlighting or whatever, instead of the relationship that was built. So I'm a big fan of give the audience what they want, not what they think they want. Because if you give them what they think they want, show's over. They think they want, oh, there he is. Look at that. I got Texas Paul. I see him popped in there. Give me 1 second. This is good stuff. Hold on. Let me make sure I see him now. There we go. And I got to make sure that's in the show mix so that nothing. Oh, we'll make sure. Okay, I think that's all right. Oh, I don't have to put him in the show mix. Hold on 1 second. And then give me 1 second, kids, and I will do that talk amongst yourselves for a split second, and I can bring him in. I have so many things open on my desktop. It is both embarrassing and exciting. Let's see. We go to preview mode, and then we go to the guest number one. Hold on. This is guest number one. There we go. And do this real quick, and we'll be right up with Texas Paul. It's always something. Here we go. Put him in guest one. I think that'll work. There, and he's looking good today, by the way. I must say, like well lit and he's stepping up in the world. Texas Paul has built out his system. Okay, let me do this. 3, 2, 1. And we'll bring in our dear friend Texas Paul joining us right now. How are you, sir?
Man, I am wonderful, bud. I am excited. I am doing great.
Yeah.
I am. I'm
Excellent.
fired up. Everything's going good. People are getting motivated. The election is here. That's my favorite, one of my favorite times just to exist is right at election time, man.
Yep. Because that's when we can actually put the rubber to the road and and implement our greatest power in this democracy, which is our say. You're not guaranteed to win, but you're guaranteed a say. And more, I think people are. It's funny that, and I'm curious if you see this, and we'll talk. We got plenty to talk about, I have no doubt. But I see a lot of people that I would argue didn't probably vote in the last election at all, who are worried about our rights to vote being taken away by Trump in this next election, or worried about what they will do to stop us from voting. And I'm like, well, all they had to do to you is, rotate some bumper stickers you didn't like, or ones you did, and that was enough to make you sit home. So I think that's the bigger challenge each time we come up to election time, is that more so than, ICE agents at, polling places watching legit voters walk by, go, hi, and go in to vote.
Yeah, man, I tell you, I see it all the time. I see people that are just dumb as dog shit, doing the same shit they did last time, saying the same shit they did last time, have no idea. I mean, how bandwagon effect is not a deep concept, man. It is not.
Right.
We're going into the last push towards the election. I got an idea. Let's talk sweet about Democrats, talk shit about Republicans, get people pissed off at Republicans because people don't vote to say thank you. People vote to say fuck you. Oh, I'm sorry. We're in radio.
Nope, we are not. Go ahead.
Oh.
We are not. We can swear. I know better. I will always warn you ahead of time. Yeah.
Thanks, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. Damn, I messed my hat up. I got out in the rain and the damn thing's just.
Hey, man, don't be
Funky as
afraid.
hell.
We all go. Dude, we go out there. Let me tell you something right now. And big love out to Brett Michaels, who's had some sort of kidney stones or something like that. He's pissing rock right now. That's how much of a rock and roller he is. This is from.
Ouch.
I bought this for. Yeah, I know. I bought this when I did my Rock of Love spoof.
You know what? You know what I love, man? I love when men like to say, passing a kidney stone is equivalent in pain to giving birth. I'm like, yeah. Let me know when you pass a 10-pound kidney stone that's that big around out your pee-hole, man. Then we'll talk
Right.
about pain.
Yeah, and then raise it. Here's the other thing too: is you don't have to raise that kidney stone and make sure it can read and make sure it doesn't, get addicted to substances and whatever. Blah, like, come on, like simmer down. Sorry
I
about
don't
the
mean
buzz.
to turn serious on you, though. I mean, we're having fun and everything.
Yeah.
I don't mean to turn serious, but you raised a really excellent point there, and I don't want to let it go. Right now, what I'm doing with people in my community, Hal, is I'm telling them, look, listen to what these Republicans are saying. They are saying the man and the family should vote. They're saying women should not have the right to vote. They're saying that all the misogynist shit they're saying, all of it. I mean, just pay attention to what they are saying and doing. And ladies, if we don't turn out, if they by somehow survive the midterms, they're going to take that as permission, and you are going to lose your right to vote. It's going to roll back to the way it was in the 1970s, where you couldn't get a credit card without your man's signature. You wanted an apartment? You wanted an apartment? Your daddy or your husband had to sign off on it. You know, they're already talking about, you watch these Republicans, they'll get together. Everything that they want to pass down to their people comes through the churches. Listen to what they're saying in the churches. Divorce? No. You cannot legally get a divorce without your husband's consent. That is not acceptable. I mean, this is all real, people. It's just as real as when we told you. How many people did you tell they're going to take Roe v. Wade away?
Yeah.
How many people did you tell that?
Everybody.
And they just didn't believe us.
Well, they also thought, on top of that, their reasoning was something Palestine. And I was like, well, okay, fine, let's stick there. Do you actually think this man who posted a video of himself building a resort in Gaza was going to be better for the Palestinians than Kamala Harris? Are you like, that in and of itself is insanity. So I think, and again, online conversations are what they are, and I think we've been bottified on a bunch of fronts. So I take that with a huge grain of salt. But there were some consistent folks that I had seen, through the chat rooms over the years that I knew as, in theory, who were real. And by the way, in Norway, we got some Norwegian kroner about saying, keep swearing, Texas Paul. I wish I had a cussing pond like you. Best wishes from Norway.
Mr.
So
Knudsen! Mr.
There you go.
Knudsen! Asbjorn.
It's-
I like Asbjorn. I know Asbjorn. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
we've had
He's a good
Asbjorn in a
dude.
few times. And isn't it Knudsen? Knudsen? I think so.
Newt.
Is it?
Newt.
Okay.
Like you
All
pronounce
right.
pronounce the lizard. Newt's son.
Yeah, well, it depends because in the movie Cobra, if you'll recall, the damsel in distress who was a foot and a half taller than Sylvester Stallone, with the big blonde, her name was Knudsen in there because a lot of people are very firm about the case. And we'll find out one day when you and I do our European tour, just to piss off 3 of 7 project, that will go about the world after this current unpleasantness is over. We'll deal with that. Yeah, Brigitte Nielsen was okay. So but you're absolutely right. Like, we warned everybody, and part of my annoyance at the sudden turn by people like Tucker Carlson, where he's apologizing to MAGA for buying into Trump, and I don't know how he could change. And I was like, he didn't change. He's doing exactly what he said. This is Project 2025. Just like we said, he is a liar and a con man. He has no idea what he's doing. He's incompetent as well. Every single pejorative he used about Joe Biden is true of him in spades, and that's why he said it, because he externalizes those things so that when he starts flubbing words or falls downstairs, he can say, "You're just picking on me because I was picking on your guy." And I call everybody a fraud while you're committing fraud, which is the Roy Cohn system. If you're going to cheat on your wife, talk about how everybody cheats, right? That's how it works.
Yeah, man. I tell you, I'm watching this. Did you catch this? We did it again this Friday. All week long, Iran was horrible. We may have to escalate. We may have to put boots on the ground. Yada yada yada. Oh, they're blowing up tankers. This, that, and the other. Friday at 4:00 when the New York Mercantile Exchange closed.
Yeah.
We're having excellent discussions. The peace talks are happening. So that what happened when the NYMEX opened at 6:00 on Sunday evening, and today oil prices plummeted. You will never, I'm telling you, if we do not go after his family and look at their financials to see who's shorting oil futures, we don't deserve to run anything. We don't.
Yeah. Well, and again, though, we're going to need everybody in there. Like, one of the biggest problems that I have with our Democrats get in there and then they're not fighting or whatever. I'm like, first of all, right now, the Democratic voters, or allegedly, I would call the faux aggressive crowds, took that power away. They voted with their feet, and they allowed for this to happen. So all the people who on the right who are saying, I didn't vote for this, yes, you fucking did, because he said it. Even in Afghanistan, he said, we should have kept Bagram. In Iraq, we should have kept the oil. There are only 2 ways you do that. You have to stay in country. You have to run a secondary, civil structure around the base and how it interacts with the government. So if the Taliban's going to take over in Kabul and we're going to keep Bagram, that means we're going to have a tacit CIA base or an embassy system working with them. That's staying. And we're not going to stay in there long before they kill one of ours. And if they kill one of ours, then we're going to materially take over part of that and start picking the leaders. That's what the plan was. That's what he wanted. That's what he was going to do. So the idea that, we not only did they hand it over, he talked about it, Project 2025 and all this stuff. But if you didn't vote, you voted for this shit because it was patently obvious it was going to happen.
Yeah, man. And I want to throw this out there. This is going to get me in a lot of deep trouble. I know it. I have, for the last 30 years of my life, have spoken out for Palestinian autonomy. I have not agreed with what's going on. I've watched Israel move farther and farther and farther and farther radical right. All of that is true. But also, that region is not the center of the universe. It is not everything. And if we can't talk about winning elections here in the United States without somebody screaming about that, we're lost, man. We're lost. I mean, a guy in Indiana wearing a mail order keffiyeh, and everything in his life revolves around that region for some reason. He doesn't need kinship. He needs counseling.
Well, I agree. And I would also say that a lot of those folks, as soon as there was allegedly a peace deal, which there isn't, there's ongoing shooting. We're almost back to the status quo before October 7th in Gaza, with the exception that it was bulldozed. There is no like ongoing, there's no movement at all. I don't know this is like the 3 phases of the China deal Trump was working on in COVID. Never came to fruition. Ongoing killings still there. And Netanyahu is more off the chain than he's ever been under Trump because they're just not talking about it. But the very people who are taking over campuses and wearing these things or whatever, they're not showing up. You're not seeing them. You never saw them protest. And this was the big problem I had. They were outside the DNC because they knew there was a voice, there was an ear in there that would listen and understand that. But they never showed up outside of Mar-a-Lago when Trump was meeting with Netanyahu. Trump is meeting with Netanyahu today. There'll probably be 8 to 10 people out that are doing that are true believers, yelling at his car as it goes by. But that's it. It's not like the crowds that shut down the campuses showing up at those places, even though if there's ever been a situation where they needed to pour out into the streets, it would be when Netanyahu visits the White House and almost surround the place. It should be on if it was truly organic and it was based on that kind of standard, there would be some kind of, like BLM level, protest outside like there was in 2020 or something, but there just isn't. And part of that is because of the cosplay aspect of it that you're talking about. And quite frankly, that a lot of the division about the issue was fomented by China and Russia specifically to cause division amongst the Democratic Party going into the election to help Donald Trump win. We know this because of his stupid announcement the other day where he thought he was like dunking on China all of a sudden, that they got involved in our elections in 2020 when it said specifically then that Russia wanted him to win and was doing everything they could to make that happen. It's obviously true that if you went further back, the money coming in through the NRA was funding a huge Republican drive to get Donald Trump elected specifically, even though Donald Trump he shoots as well as he reads the Bible. But this part of it is crucial because I think we have a responsibility to call out the responsibility of those who made this their cause celeb. If that's true, it's got to always be true or it was never true. And if you settled back into something's normal and okay, I got to tell you, it's not okay over there right now. It just isn't.
No. What's going on in Lebanon is I cannot believe that Jordan. I can't believe that Syria. I completely missed this. I did. I said when Israel rolls into Lebanon, I said all hell was going to break loose. That was going to be a deal breaker, not necessarily for the governments, but for the people in the region. And it just didn't happen. It just did not happen.
I'll tell you why. Because here's one of the things. We have an assumption. We have a lot of assumptions in the West based on our standard of living and interaction. That the standard of living and interaction in a democracy, as contentious as it is right now, is not even on the charts in terms of internal conflicts and external conflicts in Syria, internal and external conflicts in Lebanon. Lesser so Jordan, but largely because Transjordan became, what they know is like the West Bank and all that kind of stuff, was left to Israel to deal with. And the Jordanians did this kind of almost like if the Ukrainians decided the Donbass was too much trouble and just went, you know what, there's going to be infighting between people who want to be Ukrainians and want to be Russians in there forever. So we're just going to step back and let them chew each other's asses over the next, few decades. If they made a decision like that, that's what Jordan did effectively. And Jordan has been relatively peaceful only because they ceded the violent part of their territory to whatever future it would make for itself. And it backed away and started building a relationship with the rest of the world. Lebanon itself is one of the few states in that area that has a Christian president, for example. So in the Abrahamic system, there's a real pattern of like American evangelicals that have ignored Lebanon and the difficulties there because they really are just cosplaying like the guy with the that you were talking about before, wearing their cross as a gang symbol, and they just want Bethlehem and the something blah blah blah, the Temple Mount and Bible stories, so they can go tour over there and go, oh, this is the rock that Jesus stepped on. Oh my God, I feel so much closer to my Lord. And right, and that fixation is a tourist fixation that they have about Israel. That's what Mike Huckabee is. Mike Huckabee is a spiritual tourist in Jerusalem. Like he and all of them in the back of their heads have this like supersedence move where Christians are the new Jews because of the new covenant with Christ, and we're the chosen people because we chose him and whatever. And so there's this butting of heads in Israel with those groups all the time. Chosen by birth, chosen by choosing, whatever. That's always ongoing. There are Jews that spit on Christians and all that stuff. And you hear Tucker Carlson, these assholes, talk about it all the time because there will always exist, right? This is back and forth. There's the, Hezbollah as a proxy controls southern Lebanon, but they're not for the Lebanese people. That's always happening. And the reason they don't look at what's going on over here is like they shrug off our difficulties. Like all the shit we're going through right now that we think is the end of the fucking world and the end of democracy. Like they have bloody civil wars on a calendar basis. And so their perception of deals is a lot more forgiving a lot of times too. If we can get anything, it's good. Even if it's bullshit. I'll take some bullshit to stop the bombing for a little while, even though I know it's going to start up in the same way that you wait for people to reload to run across a hallway when, at a mass shooting or something. Like that's where they live. That's how they live. By the way, I want to, before you respond to that, I want to remind everybody, Real Texas Paul on YouTube, The Real Texas Paul on YouTube, and RealTexasPaul.com at Blue Sky, because he's got that website as well. So check out RealTexasPaul.com. There you go. I just want to make sure everybody's got that stuff. So and I think it's important that there is a bridge to be built. This is a good starting off. Did you watch any of the Hunter Biden, Nick Fuentes sit down with the Channel 5 guy?
No.
Okay.
No, I will not entertain any Nick Fuentes bullshit. I will not. That is Fantasyland bullshit, and I will not entertain it.
Gotcha.
I simply will not. It's aimed at kids for a reason. Mm-hmm. It is aimed for kids at a reason because it is not real. It is that misogynistic,
I don't mean his regular show.
Fringe.
Yeah, I get it.
Shit.
But Hunter Biden, this other guy brought them both together to sit together and talk, an actual, like not just one or the other, but in the same room. Mm-hmm. And one of the key things that Hunter Biden, confronts him on is the racism, the shit about like not believing in the Holocaust, all this thing, like calling him out directly to his face, and still at the same time going, I think we can find common ground on Donald Trump as a shithead, and dragging him in that direction. And the reason Hunter Biden went on this show specifically, to his telling, was that he has a relative or a friend who has a son who's 26 years old who watches Nick Fuentes and is absorbed into that. And Biden's whole argument was, I felt a responsibility to reach that kid by sitting next to you. That kid is never going to see what I say on Nick Fuentes' channel. This is the only time that, and this is where the argument between like, you don't platform somebody and don't give them, their ideas any weight and stuff by sitting in the same room with them and directly confronting them butt heads. And so I think there's like I agree about the regular show, and the clipping of it, but I do think that had value, and I do think it was a very bold thing for him to do in this setting. And Hunter Biden is because he's kind of written off because of his crackhead past and all the stuff that he's now able to joke about and stuff like that. But he's becoming kind of a bold, forward-thinking person in this, that he's unafraid to sit. He's like, if I was in that room with the crack and the hookers and stuff like that, why the fuck am I afraid to sit in a room with you? Is sort of his attitude about this. But that point being is like, where's the window of never going to talk to this person, and never going to platform this person, never going to be around this person, and reaching the person just past them, just over their shoulder, that isn't them, but listens to them all the time or is being led that way. Same thing is true of Alex Jones and Joe Rogan to some degree.
Oh, I hear you. And I totally understand the argument. I still don't give a shit. I don't. That little shithead that he was trying to reach is worthless to me. I don't care. I don't care. Fuck your life up. Follow stupid people and fuck your life up. I don't care. What I care about, there are so many good and decent people that are not engaged in politics that
Right.
are right down the center of the frickin' road that we can reach. There are people that are, that agree
point.
with us on 99% of the shit we talk about that are not fucking freaks, that are groypers and misogynistic scumbags. And I will never act like they're normal, ever. And I get it. If Hunter Biden wants to do that, I'm not trashing Hunter Biden. If you want to talk to Nick Fuentes, I would never say anything negative about you at all. But I would not waste a fucking moment of my time.
I
Any of these
I agree.
people.
I don't have an urge to interview or talk to him or go on his show. And again, I brought up somebody earlier in when I was discussing stuff in the opening monologue of the show, if I could call it that. I think I can. That I was invited on one of these right-wing shows or whatever, and I was like, nah, pass. Like, because I do know that considering what especially lab rats, but also queer as folk, like my background as an actor would platform them in a way that wouldn't naturally be part of the conversation. Had I been the kid of a politician, or had I been a politician myself and stopped or whatever, then it would make sense, because you're still in that arena about that, but you're not going to bring anybody from outside that arena into that arena. So that's why, for me, it would be a mistake, right? I think that would be wrong. But for Hunter Biden to do it and to make this point where this whole thing is like, somebody told you that we want different things. And I challenge that at its root, to pull this like the Elon Musk bullshit that they always throw around, first principles. What's really going on here? What's the root of all this stuff? What are we really trying to accomplish here? And we boil it down. Let's start from scratch. Let's tear up the Lego thing and start from, are we really trying to build a castle, or are we just here to play with Legos? And if we're just here to play with Legos, it doesn't matter what we build. And if we are trying to accomplish something, why are we playing with Legos? We should go build cinder blocks and actually build a house. Like that's the storyline they tell themselves. But in reality, I don't think they believe any of those things. And if they got the tires kicked on their shit, they really wouldn't. They wouldn't like what they find. They wouldn't like they're in a jalopy.
You just nailed it. You just nailed it. This is exactly why I don't waste a moment's time with them, because nothing they have ever said has ever been real. They've never had a fealty to the Constitution. They don't love America. They hate Americans. Nothing. They have family values. My ass. We've got a con man for a president and a hooker for a first lady. No freaking way do they give a shit about family values. It's always been fake. The core of these people, this entire MAGA movement, is they want to hurt people. That's it. And as long as the people they want hurt are getting hurt, it doesn't matter. People are like, well, why are people losing their shit over the Iran war? Why isn't MAGA falling apart? They hated this. It wasn't real, people. All they wanted was the people they want hurt. And that includes you. And that is the message I'm trying to get to people.
Sure.
They are, to me, just to me, and I don't claim to know everything, Al. I don't claim to be a genius, but I live with these people. I know these people. I've seen them all sacrifice everything they ever stood for. You know, the same people that were like, oh, you cannot register your guns, man. You cannot register your pistola. They'll come take it. They'll come take it from you. You can't do it, man. Are watching these people write their own warrants.
Right.
And not a word. Not a judicial warrant, not approved by a judge. They're writing their own administrative warrants, and they don't give a shit. You talk about a slippery slope, man. You're talking about an armed police force wearing masks, not identifying themselves, literally kidnapping people off the streets that they don't have even warrants for. They're going to arrest somebody with a made-up bullshit written warrant, and then they don't find them. So, oh, well, there's a brown person in a van. Let's go check them out. You talk about a slippery slope. You talk about a loss
Right.
of freedom. Where are these people? Because it was never real. How? It was never real.
Okay, it's an excellent point. I mean, I completely agree that that obviously the family values part was a farce for the leaders. Like Trump never cracked open the Bible, can't shoot, scared of guns, like all the stuff, the Americana stuff. Like it's absurd. Like he thinks. The Lee Greenwood song is his anthem, but if it was on the radio and he wasn't in this situation, he'd mock it and call it shitty and say Americans are dumb for listening to it. So everything about him is a farce, but it's got to appeal to something real in people to get them to make the sacrifices that you're talking about. That hurt has to come from somewhere. And a lot of them are very aggrieved, either in their own head or based on, because like the Don Juniors of the world, you're right. They're aggrieved that they think they should be further ahead automatically because of skin color, wealth, status, and all that kind of stuff. But the people, you and I know them, people in West Virginia, people in Kentucky, people in Texas that are, for this stuff, they're not getting anything from it at all. They've been told that whoever it is, maybe they believe the prisons and jails are being emptied out. And if they see somebody at fucking Home Depot, they're afraid that's just a rapist with some time on his hands, so he thought he'd do some roofing in the summer. You know what I mean? Like that you have to convince these people. If you're going to use populism to motivate somebody's emotions, that emotion has to be real to them anyways. So the question in those situations is, if they're 30% of the populace, how do you eventually get them to wake up from that stupor besides education or, something, they've got to be getting something from it. And even if it's a false sense of security based on the fact that they've been gaslit to think that there's an immigrant enemy around every corner. Right. And if they get,
you make it not fun anymore. You make it not fun anymore. That's how you do it. You humiliate them. You point out constant mockery. You make it not fun anymore. You put some skin in the game for them, and then what you'll get. This is going to come in stages. You're not going to win these people over. Mm-hmm. You're not. Your goal is to make them stay home. Mm-hmm. That's it. Motivate your people and make them stay home by humiliating them. Show them the scum that is the president of the United States right now. Point out that, oh, look, they did it again. Friday, all week long, we were at war with Iran, but oh, look, he made a ton of money. You took a screw in at the gas pump, you dumbass. Mm-hmm. Mock them that way,
I agree. Well, I mean, that's the primary way I address it here. Ultimately, though, when you have an entire chunk of people that are disenfranchised who say there's got to be an alternative, bullets instead of ballots, that's where it gets concerning to me. And when it's our side of the aisle, I'm never worried about that. The people that sat home might as well have been saying bullets instead of ballots because of the impact it had in the world, like the Iran war, the Venezuela, what they're gonna do in Cuba. Get used to the idea. That's fucking happening. It will. If the Iran thing gets so bad that they need another, plate to spin to keep everybody, or a laser pointer for people to chase, they will abso-fucking-lutely do it, right?
I love you, man. That is so perfect. Fucking another laser pointer. Fucking perfect.
Yeah.
I love you, man.
Just hear like fucking, and they'll just chase it around fucking, nah. And the problem is that, the mini, is that those folks right now I see on the right, that crowd is finally sort of waking up to them being flim-flammed. Part of it is, like you said, it's us mocking them. They're embarrassed. They can't feel shame because they don't care. You have to have empathy to feel shame. But you can't be embarrassed because your status relies on people's opinions of you, not your real worth in the world. If you're really a genius, you don't give a shit if somebody calls you stupid. But if you think you might be fucking dumb, you take 3 cognitive tests and ask for a 4th because people are calling you stupid, and you need to check. You need a fucking thermometer up your ass to tell you if you're dumb or not. And that's, there's no greater indication than what Trump said about like, and the exact mental state of the certainly the upper echelon maggots is that like if somebody insults me, I got to check to see if they're right, like about me, about my character, about my capabilities, not about a fact I might have gotten wrong, not about a detail that I might be off on, but my character and my physical being. He's not 6'3", he's fat as fuck, and he's dumb, and he knows it, and he knows he lives a lie. And increasingly, it seems that maggots know he lives a lie as well.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it is a process. These people will never agree with you, never admit to agree with you. And that's the part that's just, if you take them and you talk item to item, specifics, I mean, I don't care what it is, Medicare, Medicaid, if you go item to item, you will agree with these people 98% of the time. But the moment it becomes their clique, the moment it becomes their cult, the moment it becomes that us versus them, they start remembering all the people they want to hurt and that you don't want to hurt them. That you're okay with the LGBTQIA plus people living their lives, and wait a minute, we beat the shit out of those people over here. Figuratively, they attack them all the time, and you're for them. So therefore, you and I can never. Well, wait a minute, we just agreed on 98% of policy, but now we're.
Oh, it's a great example. The Middle East, Russia, and China. These are great examples with these folks who are constantly talking. They're foreigners all the time. All these foreign countries are dumping people into our country. Okay, first of all, the Russians, by and large, paid for a bunch of the quote-unquote caravans and the news stories around them to scare everybody into thinking there was these stampeding South Americans coming to get, carve off a part of their country. Paid for it outright, just funding it, putting ads in papers, right-wing NGOs, paying for those ads to go up all over Brazil and Guatemala, and everybody's going, come to America, you're allowed in.
Coordinated out of the Russian embassy in Mexico.
That's right. And then same thing with China and the Middle East, this idea that they're like, man, Dubai, man, it's so fucking clean and there's no crime. And there's, okay, well, and same thing with Russia and Tucker Carlson going down to that fucking subway station. Like, you can eat off this floor. And like, you probably did, you bastard. And then he goes to one grocery store and one Kremlin-controlled hotel is like, finally, a country that has values. And you're like, okay, motherfucker, now do guns. Now do free speech. Do anything that America actually stands for and stands out as that you allegedly believed forever. And do that in any of those fucking countries. And they'll laugh right in your fucking face after they take you straight to jail. And, it's real easy to have zero crime in an area where a singular group, a royal family or a political group that holds power like they're a royal family, like the CCP, gets to decide what's a crime and what the punishment is and whether or not you're guilty, whether there's a jury or not. If you like our jury system, then shut the fuck up. If you like guns, if you're these 2A absolutist motherfuckers who, like, I'm like, all right, tell me, Erdogan, Putin, all these MBS, tell me the gun rights in those countries that you like so much. Yep. Tell me. And then tell me about the leader of our country who has to mitigate the potential for people having too many guns or too dangerous guns or high caliber guns or automatic weapons within the right of having a Second Amendment, and the balancing act that takes and the politics of that balancing act, that they act like it's a fucking absolute when they're gargling the balls of these people who have absolute denial of gun rights. And in Russia, they count your fucking bullets if you go out hunting. And if you took 10 bullets and you come back and you got 8, they're like, where are the other 2 shells? That's gun rights. And you have to have like a rifle license for 5 years, which can before you can get a handgun license, and that takes 2 years to get. And then if they take it away, it's fucking gone forever. So and the idea that the Russians funneled money in through the NRA into this fucking country, and none of these assholes like that didn't peg the needle and go, oh, they might be fucking with me. They just went over there. 5 U.S. senators on the 4th of July, or 7, I think, and then Tucker Carlson, and they're listening to Scott Ritter, a twice convicted pedophile. Twice. Dude was busted twice in the United States. For that
dude challenged me to a fist fight. Scott Ritter.
Oh, well, that's hilarious.
Now he won't talk to me because I was like, okay, dude, sure, whatever, let's do it. And now he won't talk to me. He really did. He really did. He challenged me to a fist fight. But talking about Tucker Carlson and Russia and all of that shit, I got an idea. Instead of going to the station that they told you to go shoot the images of, why don't you go to a working class subway in Moscow and see the drunk Russian with that shit his pants because he's such a severe alcoholic and he's passed out in the fucking subway
because he's got nowhere to go.
Why don't you do that? Instead of this bullshit propaganda that you fed these freaking morons in the right wing wearing their t-shirts, better a Republican than a Democrat. You're an asshole. That's what.
Yeah, right. I keep like scratching my head trying to figure out what Russian technology, considering we were in the space race with these motherfuckers. Think about that. They were on their way. They got into space allegedly before us. Again, I have my issues with that looking back. I think a lot of that was bullshit. And I think, part of what drove us was we were up against a fake foe that was making shit up. And they planted the idea that we didn't go to the moon because they didn't actually get a monkey or a person in space, that a lot of that was horse shit, whatever. Like some of it was real. Most of it wasn't. That's how you do it. But I'm struck by the fact that, like, what technology does Russia have in the world? Like, look around, from the iPhone to any Mac computer that like most PCs, that like just Microsoft Windows is ubiquitous the world over in every language. One of the reasons Microsoft is such a powerful company is because it is the operating system for the majority of computers on the fucking planet, right? And yet Russia was neck and neck with us, allegedly, in the space race. There's not a single fucking thing. You don't get a ballpoint pen that clicks quicker from fucking Russia. The only thing I have from Russia that I have that would be considered a technological thing that I ordered off of eBay were these 16 millimeter lenses that I can put on my Blackmagic camera with an adapter that are, because they still lead washed their lenses like they did back in the old days. And so each lens has a personal character to it. So if you were filming something and you wanted it to look like the 70s, you use one of these and it'll, holy shit, even using a digital camera, it will look like that thing. And they will send you a box of these fucking things, like dozens of them. And you go through, you pick out the 3 or 4 that work. The rest are covered in mold. And why is that, Texas Paul? Why is that? Because they were, the only advance they had was surveilling their own people. So they had 16 millimeter cameras on every fucking street corner for miles in Moscow and in St. Petersburg and in Sochi and all this stuff. And then when they went digital, they just pulled them all down and they just stored them in a fucking warehouse and they sell them on eBay for $8. And that's it. Nothing else. And the only reason they're good, it's good tech, is because it's kitschy. It's like buying a fucking Polaroid and going, this is exactly the Polaroid I need because it's so bad it's like 1972. I don't get it. Even their spy tech sucks. China stole it all. And you could buy a Chinese knockoff of every spy device they ever came up with in fucking the spy store in DC, or there's one in San Francisco. Like nothing. Yep. Russia does nothing. They are, and it's so fucking odd that maggots somehow are like, and Trump specifically, through his defense of Putin as a great leader and through his defensiveness about Russia, which we now know is absolutely fucking true. from what he, from his own little stupid address the other week. You and I haven't talked since that happened. There have been a couple of things since. I'm going to cover the White House Correspondents' Dinner speech in its entirety tonight. I'm going to play it and go through it. But between that and his just the last few weeks of when they've tried to make him rally again, and he's slurring all over the place. He's making this like fourth term bullshit joke that he can't say candidacy. He says candidacy. He can't say it was brutal, dude. I was like, CSL grabs these sound bites for us, bless his heart, and the one he did at Mount Rushmore. Where he's talking about Teddy Roosevelt.
Begin the killing. How do you want to begin the killing?
Right, that shit, right? And I guess the dew is falling off the leaf at this point, is my point. And that we are seeing some of those folks walk away. And I think you're right, most of them we just wanted to walk home and shut the fuck up like they did before he even showed up. They weren't Republicans before. They QAnon their way out of their house, and you kind of want them to go back home because they would vote for, they'll pencil in Alex Jones or some shit.
Start running Bassmaster reruns or some shit like that. Get them to go back home, pay attention to something besides politics, man.
Right.
Because they suck at it.
Right. I guess the ongoing question is the ones that are going to be there, is there something to salvage, in talking with them?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so. Look at what Congress has done. They control all three branches of freaking government. What have they done? Besides hand money to Johnny Got Rocks and the Broligarchs, what have they done? Mm-hmm. Nothing. Hurt some people that the MAGA Corps wanted hurt. Poured a shit ton of money into the military. Mm-hmm. And that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Is it every opportunity?
There's a really great John G in the chat just said, maybe they are the swamp. Yeah, they are. That's the joke of the whole thing, is that Trump was going to come in and drain the swamp. And, I'm not talking about the reflecting pool. Also, this, let's see if I can find he does this.
Announce my candidacy.
He comes out and says,
announce my candidacy.
Announce my candidacy. He can't even get out the jokes anymore. And I think maggots are increasingly seeing this. And this whole shit about like Tucker Carlson might run and stuff, like, forget about that. He's not running. That's just dumb. It's not happening. It's a reasonable fear that he might have an outsized control over it, or he might start messing with things. But he's never going to be president. That's not the thing, because he doesn't want the digging. And by the way, that's thoughts on that for one. Like, who do you think they hope or think maybe will come in, and kind of carry the banner? Because it's not going to be the RZA himself, JD Vance.
Oh no, he's already paid for, man. That's a done deal. It doesn't matter who they want. It doesn't matter. JD Vance is bought and paid for him. I mean, the folks that are writing the checks have chosen JD Vance. That's their guy. That's who it's going to be. They're going to try to, but it's just like, the example I use, you remember David Koresh and the Branch Davidians?
Oh, indeed.
Do you know there's still a thing here?
Oh, Branch Davidians? Yeah, they were a thing before. They were a thing before he showed up. He just took them over. It was like somebody. Right. It was like the Mormon offshoots or whatever that Warren Jeffries ran. That was still a thing even after he died and went on. Because
And that will be the same thing that happens to MAGA. It will still exist. They'll try to put JD Vance in there. People come to me all the time, Paul, I'm really scared. What about, it'll be worse when Trump dies. I'm like, you don't understand. Yes, it'll factionalize, and part of it will be worse, and part of it will just want to go back to collecting the money, and part of it, you know what I mean? But no, the cult never survives the cult leader leaving. It is always diminished. But some faction of it will exist, but no, they're done. The second Trump dies, it's over. It is over.
Well, one of the things, I agree. I mean, I don't and that's one of the bright spots, I would say, is that this is an era that's specifically tied to a behavior cycle and a new media cycle, and it's like a perfect storm for shit like this to happen. Before, people were dubious about social media, before they learned the pros and cons of it, when we were all just happily doing hashtag, wars, where, we're like, Nickelback a movie or whatever, that kind of shit we were doing on Shitter before the bots rolled in. And I blame CNN to some degree, because they were putting Twitter accounts on television with silly fucking Joe the Plumber 1776 without actually knowing whether that person was real, whether that person was an American, whether they were legit in their belief system, or whether they were trolling. It had as much value as somebody calling up and going Baba Booey and hanging up, but they put them up there, and that's ringing the dinner bell for foreign actors to go, oh, okay, the guard is completely down. These assholes think that free speech means that nobody has to be responsible for what their speech is. And I, this is one of the areas where I kind of butt heads with our side in the conversation about things, because I believe every right comes with a responsibility. That you have a responsibility for, like gun rights, for example, is a really easy one for most people to understand. That if that's going to be a right, it has a ton of responsibilities that go with it. You got to lock it up, make sure a kid doesn't get hold of it. You can't, have an automatic weapon, because if maybe you're the most trustworthy person in the world, but if it gets out and you don't have insurance for what happens with it, and you refuse to, or you won't register it, so nobody has it, nobody knows you have it, except the person that stole it, they can go shoot someplace up, and by the time that happens, a bunch of people are dead. That's why it matters. That's the responsibility part. I would argue that healthcare, once it becomes a national right, and we have universal healthcare of some sort in this country, it will also become a responsibility, because there will be limited resources in those situations, and everybody will be as responsible. They'll have to be, if they want to be a decent citizen with that kind of system, to make sure they need the doctor as little as possible, and they get optional diseases as, lifestyle diseases as little as possible, right?
And I'm not fighting you at all. Here I am. My fat ass is 100% agreeing with you, brother. I do. Right. I mean, if it goes to, we've got to be responsible in that.
Yeah, that'll be a tough one. That's always a tough sell. The same thing happens if you're talking about like what jobs are lost in AI stuff and all that kind of stuff. If there's going to be a responsibility that goes along with that, where we're going to have to take care of people whose jobs are displaced in that time. That's why the Chips and Science Act had retraining stuff in it.
And Hal, man, you're one of the smarter people I know, man. You really are. You're one of the smartest people I know. So I'm dying to hear your take on this. The economy's not hard. It's circular. It's not hard. You pay an employee, manufacture a good, sell a good, take the profits, live off some of the profits, invest some of the profits, make more goods. AI breaks that circle.
Yeah,
it
absolutely
breaks that circle, because you're not paying the employees to buy your goods. You're literally getting rid of your own customer base. I mean, for as fucked up as Henry Ford was, that Nazi crazy ingrate bastard, he understood that his own people needed to be able to buy his product.
Right.
That much he knew. AI breaks that circle. And these
I'll tell you what it is. It doesn't break the circle. It was never in that circle to begin with. It's in the illusion of it while it's being processed. It is much more akin to oil in the time of There Will Be Blood than it is the Model T. And it looks like a product because it required coding and education and material work and people clacking away at keyboards for a long time. But in the same way that most people put gas in their tank without thinking of the chain of stuff that actually gets it to them. And what it ultimately does, that gas that's in your car, is it drives the expansion of your life span and your life experience and your life force into the world, whether it's driving you to work or picking up your kids or letting you drive a truck with shit in the back or kids in the back of your backseat of your car playing games or whatever. It's a purposeful industry around what will effectively be a utility. And because it is built on, as Bernie likes to say and other people, on all of our stuff, the culture of the world and all that kind of stuff, which, by the way, is true of all technology. It's just happening a lot faster. Every movie is based on either stuff you saw in a movie and you're copying, or stuff you saw in a movie and you're like, I'm never doing that when I make my movie. That's how humans work. It's not, the AI isn't the greatest form of cultural appropriation. It's us putting it in a soup where it can spit it back out to anybody who wants to be inspired and use it, because it's a tool in that way. But here's what I will say. The business people that we're all worried about, the oligarch class, the Altman, Zuckerberg, and I don't even know why Zuckerberg's in this fucking conversation, because Meta's AI is way down in the toilet next to Grok. They bring up Zuckerberg and Musk when they talk about this. Both of them are morons, especially about this topic. They have no fucking idea how it works. They don't know how to apply it. They're not good at what customers want. They hope one day it'll help them with one of their products. Musk wants it to run cars and robots, and that's where he's funneling it. Meta wants it to be able to corral people's likes and dislikes and all that kind of stuff and help Facebook grow and maybe build other software off of it. But like all the hardware guys, Apple, NVIDIA, those guys who make actual shit like you're talking about, expect it to be an addition to the computational power of their actual devices, and how it uses it and how well it works will matter to them. It's much more like the water in the pipes than the pipes themselves. And we went from cement pipes to holes in the ground to ceramic and cement pipes to copper, steel piping with lead, and then copper piping. Over time, we evolved that to get that thing into our house, right? What you're going to see, the evolution of the gear and all the shit, the money that's going to be made off of it, is the delivery system by which you are comfortable working with AI, either through your laptop, your phone, your lack of a phone, a weird little device that sits on your shoulder, or a fucking robot walking around that looks like C-3PO. That's what will matter. That's the material world of this. But everybody is rushing to this investment because whoever gets...
Again.
Yeah.
Just blows my freaking mind with what you're saying there, because the math doesn't math on the investments. The technology is going to time out in 3 years, 4 years max. They're going to, and none of these data centers they're building are actually scalable. They're going to have to rip them down and build new data centers. That right now, every corporation that's actually buying in.
Oh, it's worse.
Uber,
wait,
Pizza
it's worse
Hut,
than that.
It's worse than that. Are bailing out because it's way more expensive than they ever dreamed it would be. This is insane.
Well, here's the thing.
None of the maths.
No, well, here's the thing. The data centers right now are like the oil fields of old. If you wanted oil out of a certain part of the ground, you had to put up pump after pump after pump after pump. Look at the old fucking fields of these things going up and down. And now you have the big ones, like the ones that do wells in the ocean. Those are being used on land now. And then they siphon slant drill out of these things into different layers. And there's one pump pulling what used to be 75 pumps worth of stuff. In the oil fields of Montana and other places, are basically, even Texas, they pare down, they get smaller and smaller and smaller. The thing about these data centers is they're building these fucking barns that go on for 2,000 acres. The oil fields at least pared down over decades. They could remove them. They're like, okay, we got this guy now. This is much more efficient. We're going to take these two out of service. Instead of repairing them and that kind of shit, we'll just tear them down, recycle them, or do whatever, or sell them to another country that'll use them, that kind of shit. That's not happening with the data centers. These things are just going to be, in a matter of months, we don't need that anymore. Bunk. And maybe they'll sell cloud service shit for parking everybody's Instagram photos. But that's it. And they don't need all that space. And they won't need all that computational power. And they won't need all that energy, because the very technology is helping to create a more efficient version of its technology. Literally, one of the things that the big programmers at all the AI companies is, how do we make you do more with less? Because they don't have the chips and the building materials and the fucking gas and all that stuff to build these giant things to match. We don't have 3 times the power. They don't have it. So you have a choice. Say, we need AI that's going to be AGI, ASI, right? And it's going to happen in 3 years. But it's going to happen because we need 3 times the amount of energy, and we have to build all these fucking things. Well, what if you don't have the resources to build those fucking things? Which they do not have. Then you have to use the technology to make the technology more efficient. And every other form of technology, whether it's gas generators, solar power, wind, geothermal, whatever you can use that's available to you, if you need more power, is going to have to become way more efficient. And the benefits will be great. The problem is with these data centers is they're going to be a waste of fucking space in about 5 years.
You know, and you're hitting something right on the head with the infrastructure to support them. There's a lot you can point at with China and say they're screwing up. This is not going to work. They're going to screw up. But in China, they did it. They put the horse before the cart. They built massive solar farms. They built massive wind farms to power these data centers before they built the fucking data center. I mean, it's like it's like, wow, what a concept. You know,
I hear you on that. But lovingly, as your brother who's spent a lot of time in China, by and large, that's a farce. And when you see the fields of solar panels and you see the fields of wind turbines, that's a sales floor for a retail shop where they're selling that stuff to the rest of the world. They work, they are good, but China's using coal by and large for its industrial stuff. And they are selling that stuff. They're using coal to make those things to sell them to the rest of the world, which wants them because we don't want to use coal anymore. The data centers over there and their AI specifically is piggybacked on American stuff. It like even one of the new DeepSeek, I think it was it Kimi? It was Kimi, the new one that everybody's like, oh my God, this open model. If you ask it, it will tell you it's Claude. And the reason it tells you it's Claude is because it's iterated off of Claude. It's stolen from Claude. Right, it's built off of that, and they're basically doing what they do with material goods, which is you make a purse over there, they copy the branding and all that kind of stuff, and then they make a knockoff and sell it in the rest of the world. They're doing the exact same thing. That's the only model they currently know, and they need the American ones to do well, so that in the same way that like Microsoft needed Apple because Apple created the desktop and all that stuff, and there was no Windows without Apple being the R&D for how people wanted to use a desktop environment on their computer. If Apple went under, they're like, oh, fuck, it's cheaper to have a competitor than it is to run our own R&D. So that's why it's why Gates gave Gil Amelio, whatever, $50 million at the last second or whatever it was back in the day to salvage them because they were using them. It was the well of ideas would run dry. The issue that I have is not so much that the data centers. There was like a big story about one of the data centers a couple days ago about how there's this whirring all day and all night and it was affecting people and all this stuff. And then when they told the whole story, I was like, what? I looked up the company. It's not an AI data center. It's a cryptocurrency data center, which uses old shitty PCs in arrays submerged underwater to mine crypto. As they took the crypto mining offline, the whirring went away. One of the problems with these data centers is that they all think they're AI, and they're fucking not. A big portion of it is this new investment from Eric Trump and his dickhead brother trying to get into crypto and make America number one in the crypto world. And again, you can tell something's gonna fail if the Trumps get involved.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything Trump touches dies.
Oh my God.
Everything Trump touches dies. Go
ahead. I want to show you something real quick. This is, if I may, I mentioned this and I'm surprised it takes everybody to get around to it. But this is why when they're like, Trump's going to go after all these companies and he's going to destroy these companies and yabba, yabba, yabba. This is why all of Trump's lawsuits will die a horrible death. And I was waiting for the day when a judge finally got around to ruling on it like they were a first-year law student who had freshly read the fucking book. That if you sue someone for defamation, you have to show that there was damage to your reputation that cost you in some ways, other than somebody just insulting you and somebody standing next to you on the subway believing the insult. That's not for the courts to decide. Get fucked. But also, if you're going to show that they were lying about your business, you got to show them your business.
Yep.
So Trump, and because they showed facts about it. So it would be one thing if somebody just said he's not a fucking billionaire and he sues them. And he doesn't have to prove he's not a billionaire just because I said it, because we could do that with anybody. We could destroy people just by making them release their internal documents to the world. But if they show stuff and you're like, that's fake, that's that you're effectively countersuing them and accusing them of a crime, which is what Trump's $10 billion lawsuit against the BBC is. It's accusing them of a financial crime what you need restitution for. So guess what? U.S. judges ruling open up windows into First Family's multiple ventures in drawback of defamation suit on media. Trump must divulge detailed financial information from his many businesses as part of his $10 billion defamation lawsuit against the British Broadcasting Company Corporation. A federal judge ruled during a discovery hearing on Tuesday. That's why when Trump's like, or Kash Patel or any of these dipshits start saying, we're going to sue the shit out of you for what you said, that's a lie. Well, get ready to prove it, dummy. And when it comes to the New York Times or the BBC, they're crossing their T's and dotting their I's. You know, go watch All the President's Men, and the rules have gotten stricter since then.
Yeah. I don't know what to even add to it. I mean, the minute I read that article, we talked about it on my show. The minute the judge said, no, you've actually got to disclose your financials, I was like, that lawsuit's over. It's over.
It's done.
They're waiting for a Friday evening at 5:00 to dump the news that's been repealed. They're actually not even going to announce it. They're going to let the BBC announce it that they've withdrawn That's why, people are like, don't you worry about getting sued? Not really. No, that would be one of the best things that ever happened to me if I got sued, because I actually have the resources to go after them. And, what we would get in discovery would be so priceless.
Absolutely.
Sue me.
I would.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I could get a volunteer lawyer out there who would love to have access to all the information they would get through that lawsuit to pick up the case on my behalf and sue for legal fees after the fact. So one of the other things, and we'll end on this, and I appreciate you staying over, was Trump's big dig on the Save America Act, right? This is the Save America Act, and he's mad at the Senate because he doesn't realize that Republicans have a real problem with voters that want to vote their way having proper ID, much less a birth certificate or a fucking passport. People in red states have fewer passports than people in blue states. If you just limited to you have to have a passport to vote, no Republican would ever get elected again.
Yep.
Because, honest to God, it'd be like the Epstein class on his side and every other, well-traveled American. This one is specific to him because there's already the Safeguard Alien Verification for Entitlements program, which is what this is piggybacked on, and is an extension. Thoughts on that? And then I want to ask you, of course, the question, which is, what's the story you think everybody's missing or that's stuck in your craw these days?
Well, I will tell you, the whole SAVE Act thing it's just bullshit. It is. They thought they did the math on it and thought that they would get enough women edged out of, because they know where their politics is going. They know who they're offending. They know who they're pissing off. People don't vote to say thank you. People vote to say fuck you. And they are pissing women off. So the SAVE Act is designed to make it harder for women to vote. But you're right. They did the math on it, and it just didn't really math that well because enough of their own people end up getting screwed by the same situation. But just like everything else, who just got busted voting illegally? Mm-hmm. Cockeye Paxton. Right. Cockeye Paxton. He's no, wait a minute. You're not living with Angela Paxton anymore. You're not at that address anymore. You're not even in that district anymore. Why are you voting there? That is a crime. And here you are trying to tell everybody, oh, well, there's voter fraud. Well, you are the voter fraud. I mean,
Trump is every time. You can't. Mar-a-Lago's not even a fucking living residence. It can't be legally. So the idea that he uses it as his fucking registration for his voting, like he is not a resident of Mar-a-Lago or Palm Beach County officially. It's a vacation spot he can go to like a fucking timeshare. You can't register to vote at a timeshare, and you sure as fuck can't vote, from Mar-a-Lago, technically speaking. But he's getting a pass because, they're just like, fuck it. We got bigger fish to fry, I guess.
Well, because it's Florida. Then who's going to go after it,
Right. And so, yes, the story that you think isn't getting enough play right now, is there anything that's...
Yeah. Ken Paxton's finances. Finances. That math don't math. Back in 2003, I did a thing on the show about this. Back in 2003, he came up with $300,000. He had a $7,400 a year job in the legislature that he rolled over to a $150,000 a year job as AG, and he was living large. He and Angela had a nice house, luxury vehicles. They took what was left of that and came up with $300,000 to put into a little Seattle software company that all of a sudden gets contracts all over the state of Texas for police camera systems, and ends up getting bought out by Motorola. He could put several $1 million in his pocket. None of this is kosher. The more we dig, and we have just scratched the surface on Ken Paxton's finances. I was talking about the Utah condos he just bought. They sell a studio condo in that resort, sells for $750,000. He just bought one for $500,000. Why would he get a 25 to 30% discount? He just bought two bedrooms that sell for almost $1 million a piece. He paid less than $800,000 for them. Right. Why is he getting these massive discounts? That doesn't happen in real estate. That does not happen. You're lucky to get 5 to 10% negotiated down. They're not rolling these back at all. There's a lot in his finances that is just stinks to high freaking heaven. It really does. And you watch over the next couple months, old cockeye is going to end up being the worst choice the Republicans here in Texas ever made.
Yeah, it's curious to me that that they thought he would be a good choice at all, especially after his wife. Again, it goes to your values thing earlier with like his wife is divorcing him for biblical reasons. And I'm like, I'm guessing are we talking live boy or dead girl situation, or is he just having that? I mean, he's obviously having an affair, but is that affair cover for something else? That he's literally covering for the fact that something that she would hate more is not there by basically having a beard follow him around to places and that kind of stuff. Wouldn't be out of the norm for the JD Vance circle in the White House. But I guess the big question on everyone's mind is do you think anyone, either of us, will ever look as healthy and vibrant as Mitch McConnell does in his new proof of life picture? This just came out about 2 hours ago. And he's in the same spot. Looks like a cancer ward sitting place where you get your injections, or a, those kind of like little rooms where you get an IV. She's holding his hand there. She's got the proper number of fingers. I wish we could all be this happy. So
look, I'm gonna say he can't speak. No. Andy Bashir is playing this smart. Andy Bashir is playing this smart. He can't go in, he can't kick the door in and get in the middle of somebody's health situation, this, that, and the other. But before August 3rd, I believe you will see Andy Bashir say, nah, I need to have a conversation personally with Mitch McConnell, or I'm going to move forward with a special election. I don't think Andy Bashir is going to let this go. I could be wrong about that. But I don't think Andy Bashir is going to let that go. And the reason they're doing this is because of the changes that we've seen in Kentucky. You know, there's a reason Kentucky has a Democratic governor.
Yep.
I mean, the sea is changing there, and they are terrified of what happens in a special election there.
That's
But
right.
yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, I don't. What do you think, Hell? Do you think Andy Beshear lets this ride, or I know he hasn't. He's played it pretty smart because you can really come off like an asshole if you get too belligerent about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at some point, he's going to say, "Look, I'm the governor. I don't believe he's competent.
Well,
I don't believe he can function."
Here's the thing. It becomes less about him now and becomes entirely about his chief of staff, everybody working there, Elaine Chao herself. If they're perpetuating a fraud on the voters, it's not his fault anymore. He's an old man who had a stroke or a heart attack or both or fell over or whatever and is incapacitated. He's not making the decision to hide his ailment. If he can't speak, he's not hiding the fact that he can't speak. He can't speak. Like, that's the issue. So even if Beshear is doing something, it's about the machine around McConnell more than it is about McConnell himself at this point, because that's the thing about incapacity. At some point, that's going to be true about Trump as well. We're gonna have the same fucking conversation about Trump sometime in the next 6 to 8 months. We really are.
Yeah.
And they're trying everything to make sure this dude's tank is full every time they send him out, but it's bad, and he knows it's bad, and he's a shit. McConnell was at least a decent patient. He would do what his doctor told him. Trump's not going to do it. He never does what his fucking doctor told him. Like, this is fucking crazy. So the thing is, no, I don't think Beshear has to worry about looking bad, because it's not like it's closer to like the story around when Richard Simmons disappeared for a while. Like, I need to talk to somebody, I need to talk to Richard, or I need to talk to somebody that isn't holding the door shut and saying, Richard's fine, he's just busy, right? I need to talk to somebody like that for legal reasons. This is not about his inheritance. This is not about his family name. This is about the, half of the state not getting representation, or the whole state not getting both of its representatives, because they've got a carpetbagger and someone who's in a, maybe in a persistent vegetative state, or who is non-communicative after a stroke and won't ever be. If he's going to be, that's fine. God willing, an old man recover from a stroke.
No.
Bless your heart, whatever. But it's not, it's certainly not going to happen before the election or during the next year. And the people of Kentucky don't have to go without representation while he recovers in this way. So that's where I think he's free and clear to talk as openly about this as he wants. And you're right that Beshear, and to some degree Rand Paul, points out to the fact that Kentucky is not a hard red state. Rand Paul coasted in as a carpetbagger, not even from the state, as the son of Ron Paul, who's the audit the Fed dude. So he rolled in on more of a Alex Jones ticket than he did on a Republican ticket, but they're okay with him because libertarian seems more conservative than liberal to them, or some horse shit. The problem I have is now I'm going to have to move back to Kentucky and run for Senate. And, against Thomas Massie, I suppose.
No, Thomas Massey's done, man. He's done. His support's fractured all over the place.
I don't think so.
What kills me, Hal, what the hell
so.
is it with people on our side that are like, oh, Thomas Massey? I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Well, no.
This
Here's the
guy's
thing.
the biggest asshole on the face of the planet. You agree with him on exactly one freaking issue, and all of a sudden you think Thomas Massey should be on a presidential ticket, or you think fuck that guy.
Well, no, here's what I'm saying. I agree that I don't agree with them or whatever, but I'm more than happy to watch them, bite each other's tails about this. That's the point. And so there is a reason to go Massey, go, not because you want him to succeed, but because you're kind of furthering a fight you're not a part of. But in the case of Massey, here's a little story about Thomas Massey and his bullshit. Thomas Massey's house in northern Kentucky, because it's the district that my dad and his wife, is now widow, lives in. Thomas Massey collects rainwater off of his roof for gardening, a slope garden off the back of his house. He's got solar panels all over the back of his house. He's got a geothermal energy source on his property. And so that dude is a fucking hypocrite every day. He walks around acting like a Republican who's against the Green New Deal and all that horseshit. He actively participates in that. Now, between that and the Epstein files, there's like 5 things I agree with this guy on. And none of them have to do with how women should be treated, or minorities should be treated, or immigrants should be treated, or the education system. So I don't have to like this guy at all, but he gets to carry around the burden that he agrees with me on like 10 things that he can't even bring up around the people around him, or they'll make fun of him. It's like Lindsey Graham. Like, we all knew Lindsey was gay. Everyone did, or whatever. And the side of that wasn't that, mocking a person who's gay or whatever. It was, or a closeted person who was against gay rights, which is really what the issue there, that level of hypocrisy. It was that you and I don't have to walk around carrying a lie because our side of the aisle is comfortable with reality and people being who they are, and respect for people enough, by the way, that we can both support and argue with gay people on our side of the aisle, because to us, they are complete human beings. They are not, they're not their complete person isn't made up of their sexual preference or their sexual identity or their gender identity or whatever current phrase you want to use. That's not an issue. It's just a personality aspect. It's who they are as a human, and that's okay. It may weigh on their political beliefs or not, but we will argue them and work with them as humans. They don't have that on their side. They have to live a lie all the time. And so Lindsey Graham, his whole career, had to live this bizarre lie that on our side of the aisle, nobody has to worry about, Yep. And so that is the thing that's their burden. And we don't have that. Yeah.
I keep trying to go to Wikipedia, to Lindsey Graham's wiki page, to add a paragraph that says that he died in Narnia, and they keep taking it down.
Yeah. Well, also,
I mean, what a shame, man, to live your whole freaking life. That man died in the closet. What a shame.
In 2026. Like, you know how many people died in the closet because they had to, because it wasn't safe, because it was dangerous for them to be themselves, and then to be alive in this time, and know that the only reason you can't do it is because all the people you're lying to about your beliefs and ethics wouldn't vote for you again if they knew who you really were. And it's not something that's illegal or dangerous or immoral. Like, it's just. Yeah, it's amazing to me.
Let people be people, man. Just let people be people. Right. Jesus, man. I mean, come on. We got more important things to worry about. We got to produce 1.2 to 1.4 billion pounds of food every single freaking day. Mm-hmm. Let's worry about shit like that. Let's worry about power generation. Let's worry about the fact that we've got a town in Portugal that just clocked in at 117 degrees. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's worry about that. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. Well, and this goes for the infighting amongst Democrats. That's allegedly a big thing. Fox wants to make it bigger than it is because there are like 4 DSA leaning people who got into office or whatever, or made it past the primary. They're not in office yet, even in their areas. That's causing a big rift in the Democratic Party. And what I would say is, before you start being a purist and saying, all or nothing and blah, blah, blah about Democrats, give us 60 senators or 62 just for safety, and 65% of the House and the presidency. Then you can start nitpicking about whether somebody is the best of the best, or if they're playing for the other team a little too much, or if they're a little too open to ideas that you think are off, the platform. Until that point, you have not convinced the other side, the independents, the floaters, whoever else, that your idea works. Get in there, pilot that shit. Understand it may take a decade. There will be setbacks. You'll have to build on it. There may be improvements you make in it that you didn't like or avoided in the beginning, and you have to admit that actually made it better. That's life. All real progress is incremental. Suck it up, and if you believe in that diversity is our strength, that means you got to listen to people that vehemently disagree with you as much as the people who marginally disagree with you. But
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, again,
People's heads exploded when I pointed out that there are actually districts in this country where the majority of people in them actually support Israel. I don't agree with them. I don't agree with where they're at. I don't.
right.
100%. But they exist, and we've got to run a candidate there. And if we're going to actually be a big tent party and we're actually going to take control of things, you know, I say it all the
Yeah.
time. If you don't run shit, you can't do shit. You know what I mean? And they're like, well, no, we have to be purists. We cannot run Democrats in those districts. And I'm like, you're fucking stupid.
Yeah.
You are stupid.
Or the
You know?
or the Democrat you're going to run in that area has to be like DSA or farther left than that, and it won't happen. But you will find somebody that says they believe in Israel has a right to exist and defend itself, but Netanyahu is awful, and we've got to limit the stuff we do, and that's what I will fight to do. You can do both of those things and treat it like a human being, or in some ways you're no really better than Netanyahu, which is an all or nothing. He's an all or nothing player as well. And if your only way to answer all or nothing is with more all or nothing, you're going to lose. You're going to hand over, somebody. You're going to hand it over to somebody who appears fake reasonable, even though they're a right-wing maggot and they're pretending to be like moderate on women's rights. We just want to, 27 weeks. Bless you. Right? Yeah, right. You're gonna have 27 weeks, but not necessarily, and that kind of stuff. They'll seem more reasonable than your all or nothing candidate. They'll get in and then be all or nothing, and that's the fear. And by the time you look up, it's done. And it takes years to recover those things. This idea that we're going to level everything and build it back up to utopia. You're like, dude, there's a reason why we have all the laws we have and why they're so complicated. Because we had to complicate them because people found ways around them. And you got to batten down all these hatches because people will be people. You're so awesome, and I'm so glad you were on the show today. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you out there fighting the good fight. And
always a good time. I need you to tell me when you're going to be back in Texas, brother. I mean, I haven't seen you in forever.
I know. It's been a lot.
Daniel came out to see you in Vegas not too long ago.
I know. It's been a lot, with the current unpleasantness my girl's been going through, and my dad last year, and we just had his memorial in June, and we've got his official burial is until November. It's we cremated him, but he wants to be in the stone next to my grandparents and that kind of stuff. So it's been a process. We're doing that in November. So there's kind of like this. I'm in this 1 year of satellite, go out, do something, and then come right back home, take care of the family, take care of my girl, my kid, and all that stuff, and then zip out and handle the fire, and then come back. And once we get through that part of it, I, for one, am prepping for the end of Trump, just so people know that I will continue my show and that kind of stuff, but it's going to be, a lot more, a lot less of a single trajectory situation because it won't need to be. And I get to be more creative and bring that part of myself back into the world again after we've gotten through this. But I think this is so important that this is where my time is going. But I can see the horizon, my children. I can see it. I could see the dawn of breaking after the darkness. So I'm working towards that in my life as well. Not just with Nerd Halen and 01 and my own stand-up and stuff, but it's crucial that we start going, okay, what does it look like when we put this shit back together? So, and I appreciate that's exactly where you are. Thank you so much, brother, for being out there and doing the good work. You're awesome. And we will get to Texas by hook or by crook, my friend. And if it's somewhere way across the state, we will, I'll get you.
I mean it. I'll give you plenty of notice. Mrs. Texas Paul has been bugging me to head out to Vegas. If we're in the area, I'm going to get in touch with you. Dinner's on me, and we will have a good time.
That's right. And the show's on me. I love that idea. All right. Thank you so much, brother. Take care. We'll see you soon. Texas Paul, everybody. There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. Big round of applause. Don't forget, it's The Real Texas Paul on the Insta and stuff. And realtexaspaul.com is his website. And it's also, that'll find you the rest of the socials, but it will also get you to, that's what he is on Blue Sky as well, if you follow him on there. I don't know if he's on Shitter or not. I'm by no means going on Shitter anytime soon. I use it for observation of stuff, but I don't interact because that would put money in the pockets of not only Elon Musk, but Sean Puffy Combs. That said, I will see you guys this afternoon. This afternoon show, I'm going to open with the White House Correspondents' Dinner because holy shit. Like, people have seen little pieces of this. They've seen bits. but they have not seen, and I mean not seen, the connective tissue, which I would argue is worse. Because, oh my God, the flop sweat. Also, thank you guys for the super chats today. And Keegan, thank you so much for this. Kamala would have been a lot better too. I completely agree. And he says, I didn't like Biden much, but he was a lot better. Biden was a lot better even than you know. We'll break down the CHIPS and Science Act and the environmental protections that were put in that, as well as the Infrastructure Act, which is the best environmental bill that's been passed in this country since the EPA was created. But thank you for that. Again, Keegan, awesome. Let's see. Didn't Trump become president to try and escape charges? Yes, partially. But also he was the only Republican dumb enough to carry out the PNAC plan. And so they had to make it happen. And they didn't care that he was a perfect candidate for him because he would lie and lie and lie. Trump needs to be impeached. This is true, but he needs to be removed from office. And that's where the Senate really matters. So could you guys just vote a couple of times in a row consistently for Democrats? And then if one day you find some way to break out and create a third party, it will be in the vacuum that's created by the collapse of the Republican Party, not by destroying our chances at even a moderate control of both houses. And Osbjorn, would not the governor in a Republican state issue free mandatory passports to every Republican in the state, not to Democrats and independents? It doesn't work that way. You can't. The Secretary of State of the country, the passport is a federal document, and you have to ask for it, and it's used for travel. So outside the country. So most of the people in the country that have them are only people that travel. And it wouldn't surprise most people to know that Democrats tend to travel overseas a lot more than Republicans. Trump is destroying America. Completely agree. And then Osbjorn was saying also, even AI in AIOA understands that universal income, shorter work days, and higher taxes on the rich is needed to pay for it all. It's the only way humanity can prosper and AI can survive. Yeah, the problem with the higher taxes on the rich is that a lot of people are, again, trying. It's one thing if they're in other industries like Amazon and shit like that. But one of the problems they have is that I have with like Bernie's bill and those kind of things is that they want to tax the AI companies when they're not profitable yet. And there's a question as to whether they will ever be profitable. Thank you, JD Christie. Sparks 2028. Thank you very much. I got to set up my own little super PAC and fundraiser thing and officially, however that does. But it's happening. I'm going to do it. I don't know what happens to the money if I don't win. I think I'd give it to another candidate would be the idea. But I'll make a list of who I'm not going to give it to so everybody knows. And then, let's see. I believe DeLoreans could fly powered by banana peels. Dr. Fusion should be a thing. Or Mr. Fusion? Was it a Mr.? Yeah, like Mr. Coffee. And humans are trees. We don't travel, said the beard. Yes. And thank you so much. It's not all about you, asshole. I think that's I hope that if you pay $10 to tell me it's not all about me, I'm both flattered and angered. No, it might be about the beard guy. I think probably 3 of 7. Time wounds all heals. J.W. Lennon. I'm sorry. Every time I scroll over one of these, a pop-up covers the text that I'm trying to read. Perhaps I should just bring it up on here and then read it when it pops up on the screen there. Yeah, but it's much smaller in text on the never mind. It's a super sticker. Look that in. We're finding out how crappy their version of small government is. It was all a lie, as the great Stuart Stevens admitted in his book title. Mm-hmm. Where's Mitch asking for a friend? Well, again, we have, ladies and gentlemen, this is our proof of pulse picture. I think proof of life is too far. It's a bridge too far, ladies and gentlemen. It's a proof of, this is definitely a proof of pulse. So we'll see. And thank you, Tom, for telling me to keep cool. I try, but holy hell. I must have drank like 5 Gatorades, 4 bottles of water, and iced tea yesterday, like a a big like green iced tea from Coffee Bean that Summer picked up for me, and I didn't pee once. That should tell you. Like all the water just came out my skin. I did not have to go to the bathroom for that at all. Like I was like, yeah. It was just fighting to keep as much of it in my body as possible. I don't know that that's an AI photo. It looks like he's wearing the same outfit. Ouch. CSL, damn. With the gifage. Yeah. So I don't think it's AI. I wouldn't rule it out, I guess. But he could just simply be incapacitated. He could just be fried and not, and again, if he can't function as a senator and he can't prove that he will be able to within a reasonable time frame, then I think there should be an expectation that he's got to name a successor, or well, the governor does, if he can't do it. I've always thought that, okay, I brought this up the other day. It might work better in the House than in the Senate. But my theory is that your chief of staff as a senator, if you are incapacitated or unable to carry out your duties, should be sworn in and able to act in your stead based on the agenda you have laid out. So the idea is that if you elect someone, whoever they bring in as their chief of staff, that person agrees with your agenda, is helping you carry it out, knows all the working parts of it, and therefore, if something happens to you, they can vote on your behalf until the end of your term, or while you're out, as long as they're referring, to you if you're alive and, you're just having surgery or some shit like that, and you can't come in. They can vote in your stead because they have to be sworn in equally. And it acts like a vice senator or a vice representative in to a limited extent. James, I did not get it yet. I will probably get it when I go to LA tomorrow because I'm all over the place. But thank you. So that's my theory. I think we should institute that there should be someone, a non-blood relative and someone that does not have a financial stake in your businesses or any of that shit that should take over for your voting if something were to happen to you. Yeah. His senior staff member makes over $200K a year. Right. So that person, in theory, your chief of staff is a public person. People know who they are, and people can judge your decisions based on who you hire if they want to reelect you. It would be a thing. And that person could do it until the governor appoints somebody else. Right? As opposed to your state just has to go without a representative while that happens. Why not? And again, that person, whoever is your chief of staff, then becomes, a recognized member of the Senate for the purpose of carrying out your agenda for as long as you have worked it out. If you haven't decided on a bill, whether you support it or not, and that's when you keel over, they can't vote on it. They have to vote present in your behalf, or not present, as it were, for the people, because you had not made a decision. If you made a decision and you wrote it down, you're like, yeah, we're going to check off every couple of weeks. Whenever you're like, yeah, we're working on support for this, and I'm signing on. If you're a co-signer on the bill or a co-author of a bill, then they should vote for it with your priorities. But they weren't sworn in as a senator. I agree. They would be sworn in as a deputy of that senator to only carry out what the senator was supposed to do up until someone is appointed, which could be the day after, it could be weeks, it could be months, but the people don't have representation based on who they elected in that spot. It's a little side hobby project. We got bigger fish to fry than that, but I just happen to think it'd be a good idea, some version. Birthright senatorship, right? That's what Graham's sister has. Eesh. All right. Much love to you guys. I will see you this afternoon. And again, we're going to do the whole White House Correspondents' Dinner, and I think that will probably eat the show. But man. Also, I guess, let's see, where are we going here? Yep. What am I feeling? Yep. Feeling a little laid back today. Why Why that start that so harshly? There we go. All right, I will see you guys this afternoon. Take care of yourselves. Take care of somebody else. Hit the like, share the show, etc., etc., etc. I gotta put a closing button on my Elgato. I don't know why I haven't doing this. So much going on. In the year of misery,
on the day of my 19, in
the eye that goes unseen,
in a second comes the thing. I know it's real and then it's gone. Is it like this for everyone? In the space between I do, in a heartbeat it slips through, between a crystal and the floor, a wave and the shore, a perfect word that I can't say, but I keep trying anyway. Broken time, a dream sublime, in my perforated mind. Whoa.